Joe Rogan Podcast. Check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
That's wild.
I went in because I came in from Miami. I think I was living at the time, and I went in and I'm sitting in the waiting room, and it was like on a Sunday because I was like, I'm only in town for it, and Stan was like, I'll come into the office. I'm like, thank you so much. I had to have a filling or so whatever I needed. It's a kind of an emergency. So I'm sitting in the thing, and I'm not getting called in, but the ladies just no, there's not even a receptionist. And Stan comes out with his mask going, no, the first thing I hear is, pig fucker, fucking cocksucker, fucking pig fucker. And I'm like, what is happening in there? It's in the other room. And Stan comes in with his mask on. He goes, sorry. He goes, I'll be with you soon. He goes, I got Hunter in the chair. And he goes back. And I listen to Hunter Thompson swear for like 15 minutes. I'm like, this is amazing. And then Stan goes, okay, come on back. And Hunter's kind of getting out. And he goes, oh, you're sitting down with this guy? He's a fucking assassin. And then he goes, and he's got this jug of clear fluid. And he's like, you're going to need a sip of this. And I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking Hunter S. Thompson's moonshine. I'm like, this is ethyl alcohol. I'm like, this is fucking amazing. I'm talking to this dude for 30 seconds and I'm getting a sip. And it was like 10 in the morning on a Sunday. Yeah. He was halfway through the jug, pure like fucking like, yeah.
Where was this?
In Beverly Hills. Yeah, Brentwood. Yeah, Brentwood was Stan's office. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It really was amazing. It was, and so I had probably a total of 7 minutes, with him, and it was like I could not have been a better 7 minutes.
That's incredible. I went to the Woody Creek Tavern just to go there because I know he used to go there.
Yeah.
And like you could like feel him in the building. There's all the pictures on the walls. It's a cool little place.
Those books, fucking Hell's Angels and Fear and Loathing, it's some of the best writing. I just fucking, like, he really had his own voice. Rum Diary, spectacular. It was like really descriptive and punchy and fucking interesting and fucked up. And he also just lived that life. It was like
Fear and Loathing changed my life. Like reading that book was like, what the fuck? Like, what is this guy doing? Like, there's grown men out there, balding grown men with spectacles running around with
think there's lizards in the fucking lounge. Like, you guys are hallucinating.
He's got a day trip bag filled with acid. Like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
And it's great shit. It's like you feel like you're on the adventure with him,
Yeah. No, it's interesting to watch the evolution of his writing too. I read Hell's Angels and it's like very different. But
it's early when he was kind of restrained and he was quite like for that. I think it was edgy sort of for the time. Like you're gonna get beaten, Shane whipped, and stomped by the Angels, and that was really edgy. And by the time they got into what it was Fear and Loathing '72 or something like that, he was just
he was
out
gone
there.
He found his voice.
He did find his voice.
He was supposed to be covering a race for Sports Illustrated. That's a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas came from.
About how I fucking lost my mind. Great. It's great, Hunter.
We'll take it.
Well, hey, it's very nice to meet you guys. I've met you before, but very nice
pleasure,
to meet you.
Man. Thank you very much.
I love the fucking movie. The Rip is great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's really good. It's so original and it's so different. And it's it's like I love those kind of movies, but it's not like any one that I've ever seen before. Really solid movie.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
So much better than you hating it and us having
the interviews where they're like, so I saw the movie. Anyway, how you guys been?
We've had a lot of those the press junkets where they come in and the first thing that the movie sucks if they don't ask you anything about the movie. They come in and they go, so how you been?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, this is gonna be bad.
Is it weird, like the transformation of the film industry seems to like a lot of it is moving towards these big streaming movies now?
Absolutely. I mean, look, it's because where most people have gone to watch them. Right?
Yeah.
Like, used to be the only place you'd go see movies in the 40s. Like, every American went to the movie every week, basically. But it was because it was that or watch the cows walk by, That was the only. And then TV comes around, and it's little, and you see these little serials. But, what happened was now this is why it's totally changed the whole thing because you got 300 million people, 330, whatever it is, watching, Netflix. And it's a lot harder to get people to go into the movies. There's also YouTube. There's also TikTok. There's also my kids. Like, it's hard to get them excited about a movie.
Yeah.
Which that's what we had. I mean,
that was our teen years were just every weekend we're at the movies.
Yeah.
There's just no question about it. You were going to go and usually not get into one because there were too many people, and then you just see what else is playing and go to that.
Well, it seems like it was kind of slipping away because so many people were watching streaming already, and then COVID came around, and everyone was locked down, and no one was going to the movie theater, and then it just set
I
in.
had this like drama that was coming out like right when COVID hit. I really liked the movie, performance movie. It's about an alcoholic guy whose kid dies and becomes an alcoholic. It's a dark movie, but I loved it. And I could tell, like, we're fucked. No one's going to go to see it, the theater, see this movie. And it wasn't even that streaming really blew up, of course, during COVID. So, look, they rushed it onto streaming. People actually saw it. I was like, look, all things being equal, I'd like people to see it, And it's not like my dad had an 11-inch black and white TV, and that's what was TV viewing. Now it's like $200. You got a fucking 65-inch flat screen, and good sound. So, of course, people are willing to. And then streamers also started making great shows. You have Adolescence. I don't know if you saw. I think that's one of the best things ever done.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Adolescence.
It's unbelievable.
Great,
what is it?
Oh my God!
It's
I don't want to spoil too much of it. It's only 4 episodes.
They're all one shot.
They're all one shot. Each episode is one entire shot.
Whoa!
So the cast, they took I talked to the director about it. The cast took a week to rehearse each one, and then a week to shoot it. And so they do it twice a day. It's the full hour. They would choreograph the entire thing. Yeah, it's really.
And then the acting is great.
But just dismiss that. Even you could even call it a gimmick. It's not in this case. But the performances and the writing and what it's about, it's as good as anything you'll see. It's phenomenal.
What is it on?
Netflix. Yeah.
Oh.
But, you have it's not even an anomaly. There's Baby Rangers. There's fucking Succession. There's Game
Ozark.
of Thrones. There's Ozarks.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, well, they're doing great shit out there. It's not like this sort of implied thing before was like, yeah, well, TV's not as good. It's not as interesting. It's a serial.
When we started, there was a different. I mean, like George
yeah.
Clooney, for instance. Like there was a big thing. He very famously, became this superstar on ER. That show, 40 million people a week were watching that show. It was the biggest thing, right? Because there were only a few channels to tune into, and that show was the biggest one. And George never renegotiated his contract. He wanted to work in movies, and it was like, you can't go from TV to movie. It's very hard.
You're
very
a TV
few
actor.
people can do it. Yeah. And he really strategically and kind of patiently, he joked that on the last episode he was on, Anthony Edwards, his co-star, was making $1 million for the episode, and he was making, 20 grand or whatever his deal was. Like, he could have renegotiated, but he would have had to give more years.
That's how bad he wanted to get off TV and do movies.
That's how bad he wanted to get off of the biggest TV show in the world, because there was such a big kind of level change between features and TV.
Well, it was a giant difference in quality. It was also the breaking it up for commercials.
Right.
It was just a different experience.
Couldn't be, there's all these rules. So you can't say this, you can't do that, you can't swear, can't have violence and nudity, all the things people want to see in movies, and also it wasn't as interesting. And then now that's tethered to these schedules and all this stuff, whereas you get this shit like you don't have a schedule and you can take a bunch of risks. So, and that started happening. And then it was kind of like, well, this is just as good, if not better, than what's in the movies. And
well,
so
then movies started to move towards more IP,
because it was hard to get people to come to the movies. Everyone got scared and thought, well, it has to be a sequel or a superhero movie.
And so an interesting little movie, kind of in the '90s when we kind of came onto the scene. There were a lot of really good independent movies that were being made. There was, it was a really great time to be making movies. People were making daring movies, and then everyone just got way more conservative because it's huge. Like the business is so different theatrically and streaming, because to put out a movie theatrically, you have to put so much more money behind it to publicize. Like you're trying to get everybody
spending about what the budget was to make it to advertise it.
Because
you got 50% of the theatrical.
Yeah, because you split it with the movie house, right? The exhibitor.
So a $25 million movie to break even, you got to make $100 million.
And you got to get everybody to not only know about the movie, but to show up like that Friday night, like that specific time, for that specific movie, and to cut through all the noise that people are contending with, and
so that just becomes about risk, and nobody wants to take the risk, so they don't want to make something new because it's such an investment, and we're going to lose our fucking money. And the streamers have stepped into that, and no, you didn't have to necessarily have a star. You could try something more interesting, or it didn't have to be a superhero movie, whatever it was. And also, I think it's frankly, people my age, it's first of all, it's expensive, right? You take your whole family, it's $100. You're on a streaming service, $20 a month. You can watch all you want. So you can't be cavalier about like you're just going to price it however the fuck you want and expect everyone to like be indifferent to that. And then also, the idea of like for me, there's a lot of stuff. I make that decision. Like, do I want to see The Odyssey on a big screen? Fucking I went to a theater to just watch the trailer for that movie. And did I at one battle after another I wanted to go see in the theater. But there's movies of people that I really like and respect where, yeah, and I got a good system and shit. But I'm like, look, I'll watch it and I might get tired, or I want to pause it and take a piss, or the kids, whatever it is. That's conducive to my lifestyle, and so
and most people's
I even
lifestyle.
see few. I think most people are, yeah.
But there is the experience of seeing it with a bunch of other people. When you see an
100%.
awesome movie with a bunch of other people, it's like a shared experience.
100%. I always
you have
liken
people's
it to
attention more.
way more attention. Like when I went to see One Battle on IMAX, that feeling. There's nothing like that feeling. I took two of my kids and two of my nephews and my wife, and we all went, and it was like, and you're in with a bunch of strangers, but people in your community, and you're having this experience together. I always say it's more like going to church. Like you show up at an appointed time. You know what I mean? It doesn't wait for you. It's versus the experience of watching at home. I think you're watching in a room. The lights are on. Other shit's going on. The kids are running around. The dogs are running around. Whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's just a very different level of attention that you're willing to, or that you're able to give to it. And that has a big effect. And it also ends up having an effect, or is starting to have an effect on how you make movies. Like, for instance, Netflix, the standard way to make an action movie that we learned was, you usually have like 3 set pieces, one in the first act, one in the second, one in the third. And, they kind of ramp up, and the big one with all the explosions, and you spend most of your money on that one in the third act. That's your kind of finale. And now they're like, can we get a big one in the first 5 minutes to get somebody, we want people to stay tuned in and it wouldn't be terrible if you reiterated the plot 3 or 4 times in the dialogue because people are on their phones while they're watching, you know what I mean?
Oh, no.
And so then it's going to really start to infringe on
creatively
how we're telling the
but
story.
then you look at Adolescence, it didn't do any of that.
Didn't do
shit.
any of that.
And it's
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's dark too. It's tragic and intense. It's like guy who finds out these kids accused of murder, and it's like, and there's long shots in the back of their head. They get in the car, nobody says anything. I think there are those. Look, these
I wish that
ideas,
were
like,
that
you do
feels
this
more
trick,
like the
do that trick,
exception. Though. It's so masterfully made that it feels a little more like the exception. I hope it's not.
My feeling is just that it demonstrates that you don't need to do any of that shit to get people. You know what I mean? Like, and I think yes. Like, look, hey, the town had the action thing in the beginning of the first 5 minutes because, you know what I mean? Like, it's a common trick that you would go, like, let me grab them and get them invested in them. It's like the movies that start with the hero hanging from the cliff, and now we're going to flash back to the beginning and tell you how they got there. I always feel like complaining about it makes me feel like one of these guys was like, when I was a boy, like, you always want to freeze the culture at the time when you. I don't know, felt more like, we didn't used to have these phones. The fuck are all these phones? And everybody's looking at their phone. I get it. Yes, it's true. Also, it's like supply and demand. People want to look at their phone. They can look at TikTok. They want, they're going to do that. I think what you can do is make shit the best you can. Make it really good. And, people can still go to the movies. Not like, I think we have this idea that's like an existential threat. Everything that comes along is going to destroy everything. Instead of like, what history suggests is that there's like marginal encroachments, things shift. Yep, as television came along, there was less theater going, and that's still going to happen. And people are still going to go to the movies because of what you said. Like, it feels like a cool thing to do. I'm going to go see The Odyssey, I guarantee you, in a theater, no matter what. Fewer of them. I mean, you could argue that's because I have more choice or whatever it is. It's hard to fight supply and demand. That's the trick, right? If people want to watch a bunch of stuff at home because they invested in TVs and cost us money, they will. So, okay. But the upside of that is, like, I can try to do something, hopefully that's like, that actually doesn't need to, have the most urgency to get you to come to the theater with your family. That's a little more experimental or risk-taking or whatever in that way.
Well, you got to adapt. I mean, there's no way you're going to change people's viewing habits now.
No.
I mean, what percentage of Netflix is actually watched on phones? It's got to be pretty high, which is insane.
Yeah. Even watching on a laptop, for me, is kind of like, kind of sucks, you know?
It sucks. Yeah.
That's joke that I like to make with every director I work with. Like when they're really puzzling over a shot or really grinding out something, I go, it's not going to look as good on the phone. When just everyone gets angry.
It takes the wind out of their fucking sails. No, that's going to look great this fucking big. But keep fucking around and lighting that. We'll also,
It is weird, though, the concern for the algorithm, like making sure that people watch. Like, look, we've got data that shows within the first 5 minutes when this happens, they tune out. So it's not like my buddy Tony Hinchcliffe, he's got Kill Tony, and now it's on Netflix, and so they're giving him notes now, and they can give him, like, but they're not telling him what to do, but they're saying, like, this is when people are tuning out. And so let's, just so you have that data, now decide how you want to edit things. It's like, oh.
Yeah,
Slippery
which is
slope.
It is because it's like the bar for walking out of a movie theater is a lot higher than from just changing the channel. Right. And oftentimes, you directors will want to make a movie that is challenging and upsetting. And I remember Terry Kinney, my friend, great actor, and he told me about the experience of seeing Taxi Driver in New York for the first time, right, in '76 or whenever it came out. And he said, what I remember is not only the movie, but I remember standing at the back because I got up out of my seat and I went, but I couldn't bring myself to leave because I was so invested. He goes, I was standing at the back by the door watching the movie, and he goes, and there were 2 other people standing next to me who were doing the same thing.
Just because they were disturbed?
Because the movie was disturbing them so much.
Wow.
Which is not a bad thing, right? So had that been on Netflix or Amazon, if somebody says, I'm disturbed, and they change the channel, like that doesn't mean you shouldn't make Taxi Driver.
Right, that's true. Like the investment of going to a place is much greater.
Yeah, and one of the values of that is that you look at movies from the 70s and 80s, the first act is 25, 30 minutes.
Right.
The Verdict, for instance, is a great movie. It takes a long time to
look
get
at the
going.
Deer Hunter.
Yeah,
I mean, that's...
And you're right. Like what you're saying, the threshold for walkout is real. Like any scene, like I want to watch Naked and Alone. Like whatever, you flip the fucking. So you are battling that, and
I watched Le Mans the other night, Steve McQueen, and there's no one talks for like 5 minutes. There's no talking. It's just a bunch of stuff getting done.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of people doing things, and it's like, wow, you could make it different. You could let it air out back then.
Yeah.
They had a different respect for what it was. Like you were telling a story, and you're gonna let it air out.
Well, they also knew where their audience was.
Yeah.
They were in a theater that they.
Part of it was they wanted to come there. I mean, this great story I like is the first time they debuted a movie, guys, with a projector in a room full of people. It was a movie of a train pulling into the station. So they put the reel up and they did demonstration and they showed the people, and everybody missed it because they were turned around staring at the projector. They never fucking seen anything like that. So it's like the technology's upstaging, but like you come for an event, come for a thing. We're all going to be here. That's part of it. It's I don't know. There's competing arguments. So you can think, well, what do you get to do? And some people just go ahead and fuck it. Like Jim Cameron's Avatar, I'm going to make my 3-hour movie, and people are going to come, and great. You know what I mean? And people say, oh, well, you can't have a 3-hour movie. And he's like, well, I'm Jim Cameron, and I've actually got the #1 and 2 and movies. I think I got this. He goes ahead and does it. This history's full of people who got told a bunch of conventional wisdom and were like, yeah, but we're going to do something different. And as it turns out, like that's actually what people want too. Is not for you to just repeat the other shit that's been done before that worked before.
This episode is brought to you by Visible. Have you heard of Visible? It's the one-line wireless with unlimited data and hotspot for $25 a month. Taxes and fees included, all on Verizon's 5G network. It's the ultimate wireless hack to save money and still get great coverage and a reliable connection. Got a resolution to save? Kick 2026 off right now. For a limited time, new members can get the Visible plan for just $19 a month for the first 26 months. Ring in the new year with code SWITCH26. Share the savings with a deal that's too good to keep quiet. Switch now at Visible.com. Terms apply. Limited time offer. Subject to change. See Visible.com for plan features and network management details. One of the things I read that I thought was really fucking cool is you guys set it up so that if this film performs well, the entire crew gets bonuses.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, hopefully it's successful.
I think
nobody gets shit else if it doesn't.
It's a fucking
popular.
great movie, man. It's a fun movie.
But it's good, but it's not like fucking we're saints or philanthropists. Like, it's completely self-serving, in my opinion. Because in order to do the job well, everybody who's working on it has to be really invested and give a shit about the result, not their paycheck only. And sometimes you work with a crew that just happen to be great anyway, even though they don't really have to care about it, and they do. And what we saw was like, that makes your movie better. And then there's just the thing of like the business is changing. You see these strikes and work stops and all these fucking questions. In order for this, I think, to survive and to be, a good middle class fucking artist, artisanal craftsman job, we got 1,200 people that, need to have reliable jobs. And part of the negotiations is always like, yeah, but we're all going to get fucked. Like, we have no participation. Like, used to working on movies, and it happens to actors too, where you go, oh, we all invested. It was really hard, and we fucking put in the extra effort. Somebody else walked away with all the success. And my theory was with Matt was we were like, how about where let's say, okay, it's just fairness, right? If this thing actually blows up and does really well, you should benefit from that. People have been, kind of given sort of promises of participation back and haven't come true. So this is like everyone got their rates, everyone got their hourly, no one cut anything. This is just an exercise in actually proving that it's not bullshit. That if there's success, you'll get some extra. A little success, a little extra. A little more, a little more.
But also, like you said, because it's fair,
It's fair.
And in success, the people who made the movie should participate in that. And also with this one, which was important to us, there's they delineate above the line and below the line, right? Like above the line being like us,
Basically
the director
like
and
the
producers,
cast and
below the line being kind of the more blue collar side of our industry. And
it was like painters, greensmen, camera people,
Yeah.
everybody else, drivers.
And so we just wanted we and believe, like when we started this company, we were like, look, we know who makes our movie better. Right? It's not. It's like this has kind of been mispriced the whole time. Like the economics have been wrong. Like when there's a big success, everybody who had a hand on it.
Because you see a great director that people rely on, or an actor that's considered bankable, they're all going, okay, I need all my people with me.
Yeah, every
Because
great
they're,
director I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot of them, they have their regular crew members that are ride or die with these people.
Right.
Because and you said it to me when we were starting the company. You were like, those department heads, who are each handling like, cinematography, your camera department, your grip department, your electric, like all those people are ultimately the people who make the movie good. Like they make a demonstrable difference in how good your movie is.
And imagine once you get a good flow with a great crew,
Exactly.
like you got the band.
Yeah. Like
there's no need to bring in new band members. Let's do this again.
Yeah. And because then like you have the situation where they all are filmmakers too. Everybody knows what we're trying to do. So like then what makes it, you're trying to get something special, something interesting, something fucking magical in some moment. You have to, like, if people are tight or if they've been out of shape or, it fucks up the environment, people aren't relaxed, actors can't do their best work. And that does make a difference between something that's good, average, great, whatever. And I think that if you say, like, it makes cognitive sense to people. But if you look around, like, what's an example? Colin Anderson, camera operator, right?
he's
Not the
unbelievable.
cinematographer. But I would tell you, I think he's the greatest camera operator there is in Hollywood. And if you want evidence of that, he shot Marty Supreme. He was a camera operator on one battle after another. You look at his resume and you're like, oh, that's interesting. These are all fucking great movies. Now, is he personally responsible for all of it? No, because it's a collaborative medium. There is no, like, you can be a painter and paint by yourself. You can be a novelist and do that, sing, write music. You can't do this job alone. Like, there are a lot of people that go into it. Even when I realized, like, Matt was the lead in the last movie I did, Air, that I directed, having somebody so fucking good in your movie who also shows up, does his job, is friendly, isn't fucking around or playing games or being weird, like, that sets this tone. Everybody else kind of goes, okay, well, what's Damon like? Oh, I see. We're taking it seriously, but nobody's going to be a dick. We're all going to do our job. We're not going to take ourselves too seriously, but we're going to take the job really seriously. And immediately, everybody kind of snaps into that. That trickle-down effect goes across the whole thing. And I think the best thing that I know how to do as a director is just create an environment where people feel like they show up, people like me, they're rooting for me, I can fucking embarrass myself and be bad, and it's not going to be in the movie, and it was going to make me feel self-conscious. And
I'm listened to, my ideas.
yeah, and if I have something to offer, they're going to go, oh, that's a good idea. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the trick, in my view. And then you're depending on the gifts of all these people. Every single one of them, guys was, some woman's assistant prop masters coming up with like the stuff that, you know, Phil Knight found, you know, his waffle from the shoe, they found it on eBay. Like, that's an extra mile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you make people feel like it matters and you give a shit and that they're contributing and, oh, cool, let's do a close-up of that. That's really fucking cool. They'll die for you. They'll go all the way, and it changes the whole
And
dynamic.
if you bonus them.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt either. Yeah.
You know, it's not just all, you know, it's
not just rah,
there's,
rah,
there's an
thanks a
actual
lot.
like codified bonus structure to say like
This is the way of recognizing that shit, right?
Yeah.
It's like in your paycheck too. It's not
That's
just
very real.
bullshit.
And you guys developed this? Is this something that you like? Kudos to you guys for addressing this, first of all, and recognizing it and having that attitude, because it's so important and it's so easy for big movie stars to just think about themselves and their
Well,
own
we're
career.
communists, Joe. We're from Cambridge.
keep the car running.
no, but each deal has had this kind of each deal that we've done so far has been different because we've made deals with different studios and platforms and stuff like that.
And it just involved us basically retroactively going, hey, we came in under, we did a great job, there's extra money, here you go.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time that we were able to actually create like a schedule where it's like, because, and by the way, we wouldn't have been able to do that without Netflix going, okay, cool. You think you can make this work? Is this, we'll give you a shot. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to do it. So we had to say, look, we're not asking you to take a cut. But, you know, if we can, and we can tell you, if the movie is watched as many hours in the first 90 days as like this movie A, that you all know what it is, then that's, you know, 20% of your salary, let's say, right? I mean, you should take a hit. So it's like, yeah, you make more money, your bonus is more. It's all just pegged to where you're at, just because that was the most fair idea we'd come up with.
So they gave us like 5 different levels, right? Like the first couple hopefully we can hit, and maybe the third maybe we get, and then it got to like the fifth
It's kind
level.
of like single, double, triple home run.
Fucking grand slam.
Yeah.
The fifth one was 110% of all Netflix viewers or something like that. So it's everybody who has a Netflix account watches it, and then like 10% of them watch it again. And we were like,
No, it's like K-pop Demon. If it's as big as K-pop
but that's
Demon
what
Hunters,
happened.
right?
We were laughing, and then K-pop Demon Hunters came along and actually did that. That's the first movie that's ever,
Jesus.
yeah.
Well, I think a lot of autistic kids watch that over and over and over. And
I haven't
over
seen.
and over again.
I haven't seen it, but I mean, somebody's watching it over and over.
Oh
and over
yeah,
again.
so, dude, people love it.
I mean, it's, you know, the value of it is that because before this, one of the big things and everybody's fighting over in the strike is like, well, share your shit. There used to be residuals, right? And residuals, and it was only for SAG and a few other things, but it was like, and you knew if you had a line in the movie and the movie had a certain number, like at the box office, well, you're going to get another $2,000. And that was a big deal. You get that check in the mail and like, okay, I can pay the rent for another month and I can do that shit. But then there was this like sort of what constitutes success? Because streamer doesn't actually sell another ticket if you watch that movie, right?
Right.
And it's hard to tell, well, why did you sign up for this service, right? So for a while, everyone was looking at the first thing that you looked at when you subscribed to somebody. Okay, you're going to go buy Hulu. What did you watch first? The Bear. Well, The Bear must be creating value for us. But you can't assign a strict numerical value to it because it's like a box office where you can go, well, you know,
We made this
Oppenheimer is
much,
$1 billion or whatever, and you know that's another $1 billion on our balance sheet because streamers are doing a subscription model. You know, it's whether it's like a gym membership where in the fucking first of the year you're like I'm gonna work out again, I'm gonna buy that annual membership, and you go twice, or you go to the gym every single day, you're paying the same amount.
Also, the weird thing is with streaming, when you're opening up Netflix, it's not like you're going to the movie theater and there's 7 movies playing. You're opening up Netflix and you have an unlimited option list. It's insane how much content. You could waste the rest of your life sitting in front of Netflix and then die and have, millions of hours more to listen to or watch.
And you're right. Like when we started researching that and built our own data to poll people and examine all this stuff, it's actually all the library stuff that people are watching all the time. If you said like the new stuff is theoretically what keeps people with the subscription or whatever, but in terms of like volume of time, I think, and doesn't come from them, but it looks a lot like, we're going to watch like Orange is the New Black and the episode of Suits and the old Seinfeld and Friends and Cupcake Wars or that's what's because Americans watch 6 hours of TV a day, right?
That's crazy. And then the other 6 hours they're on their phone. Like, how does anything get done? How does anything get done? When you started to make this film, like what is the process? Like, how did you guys agree on it? Like, what did you guys have it written first
Was
Joe Carnahan wrote it.
Joe. So
before you knew you were going to Netflix with it?
Yeah.
Okay,
He came to us with the script, and we've known Joe for he did a movie. His first movie was called Narc. I don't know if you ever saw
Yeah.
it. It's
No, it's a
terrific.
great movie, yeah.
So we met him way back 25 years ago or something like that. And so we met him back then. And Ben did a movie of his in
Smoking Aces,
04, I think. And so we've known Joe for a really long time and kind of been in touch with him over the years. And he just sent this to us and said, and we read it and we thought it was great and bought it for the company. And then we started talking to Joe about, how he saw it, how he wanted to do it, and he suggested that we actually do the movie, and we were like, yeah, why don't we do it? It seems
basically because we liked it, and
we liked
part of it's like
it.
we're not trying to just do our movies. We want to be, doing movies with all the people that we like and respect, and then the way we sort of set it up is such that to try to get historically, the way it's worked is like a studio will own an IP or a script or whatever, and then and they'll say, okay, we want you to do it. Okay, well, how much? Well, how much did you get for the last one, right? And you go, then what's the budget? And then that's how they assign a value to it, right? But like my belief was, well, especially when these streamers are like coming into the market and chasing stuff, is like this movie may be worth more, it may be worth less, and that like we're all just subject to that. So we'll try to get the best price for it, and we'll all share it, pro rata. And essentially that was the same process. We've done 8, I guess, movies or so now, and we took it out, and people wanted it. And then one of the things that was really appealing about Netflix was that they were open to this idea that we've been trying to institutionalize, and was like, okay, great, that's really meaningful, because ideally it becomes a template that other people go, hey, we want to do that thing, and then we go, oh, here's the paperwork.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like a lot of people say that they would want to do it, but now the template exists, so it's like plug and play. So if you're not full of shit and you really do mean that, then guess what? Just take this and
it also is going to let you. I hope, like, manage the risk. In other words, the argument you always have is like, well, shit, we got to invest all this money in the movie, so you can't have your protagonist be too objectionable, that's too edgy, or can't be R-rated because it costs this much. I get it, right? You're going to put all your money into it. You don't want money to fucking disappear. You want to make money, okay. So, when we wrote the first movie that we're in Good Will Hunting, it was like we knew that had to be a cheap movie. People talking in rooms to each other because no one's going to put a bunch of money into a movie.
And do a movie with us.
Two assholes that no one heard of. So it was like, okay, what can we do that's interesting and try to keep it as inexpensive as possible so that we can make the argument that someone should make the movie. That same logic carries through every time you're asking somebody to invest in something. So what I'd like to have happen is to say, okay, now that we know there's a reliable system where we understand that in success we'll actually benefit, we can lower, the price up front for you so that you can have a low fucking barrier to entry so that you can take the risk so that we can do something really interesting that's an original idea, that's that's an Oppenheimer or a Sinners or a fucking Marty Supreme or whatever it is. And then if it's successful, we're not all sitting here like assholes where, you guys walk off with all the money, and you can have that happen in an ongoing way so that you can make more interesting stuff.
A lot of the stuff that was going on with the strikes was centered around AI and what AI is going to do to the business. Where do you feel is going to be the biggest problem with AI? Is it going to be with people's likenesses? Because there's a lot of that where they want to use extras and own their digital rights forever, essentially be able to recreate them in any kind of film. But then there's also, you're going to have films that are written by artificial intelligence. You're going to have scenes that don't involve people. And it gets weird, right?
It gets really weird, but there's actually an area of expertise for him.
Yeah, we've been spending time looking at this. My belief is it's sort of like what's going to happen with electricity. Well, a lot of shit's going to happen with electricity. Some of it's going to be good. Some of it's going to change stuff. Some of it's going to be is going to be shit that kills a bunch of people. It's opening a door that you can't say, well, talk about it in a kind of a blanket way. But I think with what I see is, for example, if you try to get ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini to write you something, it's really shitty. And it's shitty because by its nature, it goes to the mean, to the average. And it's not reliable. And I just can't even stand to see what it writes. Now, it's a useful tool if you're a writer and you're going, what's the thing? I'm trying to set something up or somebody sends someone a letter, but it's delayed 2 days and it can give you some examples of that. I actually don't think it's very likely that it's going to be able to write anything meaningful and in particular, that it's going to be making movies like from whole cloth, like Tilly Norwood. Like that's bullshit. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's not. I think it turns out the technology is not progressing in exactly the same way they sort of presented it. And really, what it is going to be a tool, just like sort of visual effects. And yeah, it needs to have language around it. You need to protect your name and likeness. You can do that. You can watermark it. Those laws already exist. I can't sell your fucking picture for money. I can't. You can sue me, period. I might have the ability to draw you, to make you in a very realistic way, but that's already against the law. And the unions are I think the guilds are gonna manage this where it's like, okay, look, if this is a tool that actually helps us, for example, we don't have to go to the North Pole, right? We can shoot the scene here in our parkas and whatever it is, but then make it appear very realistically as if we're in the North Pole. It's going to save us a lot of money, a lot of time. We're going to focus on the performances and not be freezing our ass off out there and running back inside. That's useful. Just like Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn used to be like driving their car and there's a wind blowing a painting behind them and it looked goofy. And now in people use a lot of computer generated stuff. And some of it is going to replace just that. Like instead of 500 guys in Singapore, making $2 an hour to render all the graphics for a superhero movie, there's going to be able to do that a lot easier. There's already laws around and guild guidelines around like how many union extras you have to use. But also, we've been tiling extras. Like there weren't a million orcs in Middle Earth. You know what I mean? Right. There aren't in Invictus. There weren't all those people in the stadium. Like that's something we've been doing. It kind of feels to me like the thing we were talking about earlier, where there's a lot more fear because we have the sense this existential dread. It's going to wipe everything out. Right. But that actually runs counter, in my view, to what history seems to show, which is adoption is slow, it's incremental. I think a lot of that rhetoric comes from people who are trying to justify valuations around companies where they go, we're going to change everything. In 2 years, there's going to be no more work. Right. Well, the reason they're saying that is because they need to ascribe a valuation for investment that can warrant the CapEx spend they're going to make on these data centers with the argument that like, as soon as we do the next model, it's going to scale up, it can be 3 times as good. Except that actually ChatGPT-5 about 25% better than ChatGPT-4 and costs about 4 times as much in the way of electricity and data. So when they say that's like plateauing, the early AI, the line went up very steeply, and it's now sort of leveling off. I think it's because, and yes, it'll get better, but it's going to be really expensive to get better. And a lot of people were like, fuck this, we want ChatGPT-4, because it turned out like the vast majority of people who use AI are using it to as companion bots to chat with at night. And so there's no work, there's no productivity, there's no value to it. I would argue there's also not a lot of social value to getting people to focus on an AI friend who's, telling you that you're great and listening to everything you say and being sycophantic. But that's sort of a side issue. I think for this particular purpose, the way I see the technology and what it's good at and what it's not, it's going to be good at filling in all the places that are expensive and burdensome and they make it harder to do it. And it's always going to rely fundamentally on the human artistic aspects of it.
Well, I think the more it becomes ubiquitous, the more people are going to appreciate real things that are made by real people. You still appreciate a handmade table. You're going to appreciate did you see The Beast in Me, Claire Danes?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Fucking great.
Yeah, I heard it was great.
That lady, whew.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Whew. When she's in a scene, you're just like, Jesus Christ.
Great actress.
Her fucking lips are quivering. You believe everything that she's saying.
But you're right. People want that.
You can't fake that.
Right. I'll say, I did this interview with Dwayne Johnson because they when people are in these awards things, they sometimes have other actors interview them, and I did this interview with Dwayne and I asked him, there's this scene in The Smashing Machine where he's overdosed on drugs and his buddy comes to see him in the hospital. Yeah. And it really walloped me, this scene. I thought it was so great. And I asked him, and I was just like, can you just tell me about this scene? Did Benny Safdie directed it? Did Benny write that? Did you work on that scene with them? He goes, no, we actually worked on it together. And I go, well, but how did that scene come to be? And Dwayne goes, well, my father was an alcoholic, and I don't remember if he said substance abuser or alcoholic, but I didn't know the man. I don't want to impugn him, but he had a substance issue, whatever it was. He goes, and when he would talk to me, that's how he would defend himself. It was almost a bargaining thing, because there's this thing when this guy comes to him, he's overdosed, and Dwayne's amazing in this scene. He's going like, yeah, isn't it crazy? And then I woke up and thought, I could hear him, but I couldn't really hear him. And you see him, and he's kind of tap dancing, and his friend finally kind of holds his feet to the fire. And at that moment, Dwayne literally starts to burst into tears and just pulls the hospital sheet up over his head. And it's like, I'm not doing it justice if you haven't. I know you've seen it. Yeah. But he said, yeah. So he explains that about his father, and then he goes, and when my mom was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer, I was with her when the oncologist came in, and she was lying in the hospital bed. And when he gave her the news, she pulled the sheet up over her head, and I looked at her, and she just looked like a little kid, you know. And I was like, all right, like, so that, right, is 2 traumatic events from this guy's life, right, from his life experience. And the actor in him, right, sees this scene, goes into his memory, pulls these 2 things out, understands that they're appropriate for this scene, and he can marry them together in the scene, and then he goes and performs it that way. And a dude walking in off the road goes to the movies, sees this, understands somehow that it's fucking real. I didn't know why. That's why I wanted to ask him, how did that scene come to be? I genuinely didn't know. And made me tear up, and, you know, that is... And there's no fucking AI that can do that.
No.
It's a whole lot more than photorealistic images.
Yeah. You could have an AI understand Dwayne's face and move his face into different. No fucking thing could ever do that.
The complications of real life experiences relayed.
That is a completely human. That is an artist. That's a piece of art.
Yes.
Right? That comes out of a lived human experience.
That movie gave me so much anxiety. There's moments where Emily Blunt is arguing with him.
She's so movie. Good. I really said I was like that. I think that's the best she's ever been. We live in the same building in New York. She's like a very dear friend of mine, and I was like, I really think that's the best she's ever been. And then I blurted that out to Chris Nolan, and he kind of stopped and looked at me like, he didn't say it, but he was kind of like, she's pretty fucking good in my movie too.
Well, she's great, period.
She's great, period.
She's great, period. But there's something about that. Well, I knew Mark. I knew Mark I met Mark in '97 when he was fighting in the UFC. So I knew the whole journey of him. And I was so happy for Dwayne because it was a film where instead of being this fucking superhero, blockbuster Hulk of a man, he gets to be that, but be a great actor. And you know, you can't really get a person to look like that, to express emotions and and he was Mark Kerr.
I know.
If you know Mark, I mean, it was fucking great acting.
I completely forgot it was him, and somebody who had seen it before told me that was going to happen, and I was like, all right, we'll see. You know? And it was like from the second it started.
It didn't get the credit it deserved in terms of like the amount of people that went to see it, but I think overall in time people appreciate it.
That's what people go back to and look at and talk about.
Because it's a movie about MMA, so a lot of people are like, I don't want to see a movie about a bunch of fucking meatheads, but it's not. It's just a movie that happens to be around MMA, but it's a great movie.
Yeah.
The scenes are fucking fantastic.
They're fucking fantastic.
The acting is so good.
Absolutely.
And even the fight scenes, they're so realistic, man. It's really like I saw all those fights. They've recreated those fights about as good as you can get.
Yeah.
And just his crazy struggle. And you know the story behind the documentary, The Smashing Machine?
No.
So The Smashing Machine was made when Mark was at the height of his powers and pride, and he was the most terrifying guy in the world. Yeah. He was 265 pounds of solid muscle, just blowing through people, didn't even look like a human being. Everyone was terrified of him. No one knew he was a drug addict. Right. No one knew. And he spiraled out as they were filming, and he let them film him. Let them film him shooting up. Let them film him like bringing this giant bag of pills with him and all this shit everywhere and just completely falling apart while they were supposed to be capturing this hero movie of the greatest fighter in the world. He's falling apart like live in front of the documentary. It was a fucking amazing documentary.
I got to see it.
It's really good, but I was so happy that they put it in a film. And I was so happy that it gave Dwayne a vehicle to show what he's really capable of, because he's so limited by a lot of just the parameters of the roles that he was in.
Yeah, and by like galactic success too,
Yes.
right? I mean, it's
that's
he had to and will continue to have to push for that, right? Because it's what he wants, right?
Yeah.
And not because what they're going to continue to want him to do is, the thing that mints them money.
But I suspect that his experience and feeling about this movie,
from the conversations
different
I've
from
had with him,
everything.
this has changed him. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like this thing that these superhero guys have to do, where it's like something has to change because otherwise you're going to be boxed.
Yeah.
And with a guy that looks like that, it's so easy to
Yeah.
put him in that box. And so you see him now; he's thinner. He's lost a lot of weight. Like Dave Bautista went through a very similar thing too, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
wanted to be.
yeah.
He wanted to have more range. Wanted to have more opportunities to do exciting and different, challenging things.
Well, I think also coming from where he came from, right? It's like you talk about going from TV to movies in the old days. Try coming from wrestling to like the biggest movie star in the world, right? It's incredible that he did that. And now he's in this place where he's got this leverage because he's so beloved, and that he can kind of tailor what he wants from here on out.
It's hard to bring the audience with you. And go
Right.
like, no, I know you like this thing, but let me show you something else. It's sort of like you go to the concert, the band wants to play the new songs, play the fucking hits. So he's a little gilded cage. All right, fuck it, Satisfaction. No, I love the song too. My acoustic thing that I did.
Yeah, I went to see the Stones, and when they were here in town, and there was a few songs they played that were like new songs.
Oh, really?
You see the audience is like, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Go get a beer.
okay, get to the other one. Yeah, that's what. I mean, but every artist, I guess, has to make that choice, and he's made it, and it was an amazing vehicle too, because he still kept that superhuman hulkish frame, but also showed like, God, there's like amazing depth there.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's, I think, especially because it's collaborative, it happens with other people. That's what movies do that other shit doesn't do. It's just create, like, you feel for people. It's empathy. It's all made up, right? That's not him. It's all an illusion. It's all bullshit. But if you do it really well with, like, somebody that seems to really be feeling something, like, all of a sudden, I think what it does, it touches, like, these things in ourselves. Like, it has that same effect that Dwayne went through of articulate to you about, like, these moments that were kind of burned into his memory. Then really the best movies are kind of almost blank screens that we project our own fucking, like, oh yeah, when my father died, or I went through this with my kid, or I feel fucking alone and miserable, and here's this like hopeful moment that someone has to go, maybe I can do something. They inspire you, they touch you, they move you, and it's the thing to go for. The other thing is, is to tell the lighter story, to go through the more typical sort of tropes of it all, and
Either way, you're in somebody else's perspective for a few hours,
Yeah.
and hopefully it breeds compassion.
Well, when it's done right, there's a magic to it where you forget that it's happening and you're there. And the most amazing trick is when it's done by famous people. I was talking to Ethan Hawke about this. There's a scene with him and Kevin Bacon when in that movie with Julia Roberts about the end of the world. I forget the name of it.
Right.
It's Tomorrow something.
Yeah.
People will find it. But it's a great fucking movie. But there's this scene where he's trying to he's talking to Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon's got a gun to him. And it's so I know that's Kevin Bacon. I know that's Ethan Hawke. It doesn't matter. Like, you're fucking locked in. You're locked in. You're like, oh shit. Like, that's the magic.
Yeah.
And he was like, but I'm locked in too. Like, it's like a hypnosis. It's like everybody is in the scene in a very bizarre way. Like, you have the lines, but you're living it. And and that's either done or it's not done. And when it's not done, you could tell someone's kind of just performative.
You feel it when you're watching.
Yes.
If it does that thing and it pulls you in, then it's happening.
That's the magic of film.
And sometimes you trick people, I guess, but for the most part,
you don't.
If you're feeling it and it's really happening, it's much more like
other human beings
people are feeling
recognize human beings experiencing real shit.
Yes.
They
it's
really
like these
do.
mirror
That's
neurons. Like, I know what sorrow looks like,
Yeah.
without having to fucking, I can't break it down for you, or I even, we all know kind of what, like, oh, he's a little anxious right now, or did I maybe offend him, or is he, all these little things. And when like in the rare moments when these big feelings or the things happen, you feel it too, and you usually, like, an example is there's an old saying about, like, actors try to cry, people try not to cry, like, because when you're really experiencing that shit, you don't want people to see it, you want to hide it, you want to, no, I'm okay, I'm fine, it's like,
you want to pull the sheet up over you.
Yeah,
exactly.
But the other thing that's really interesting from our side of doing it, because he and I have talked about this a lot, is, and I've always said publicly, like, great actors are good enough for both of you. Like, when you're in a scene with a great actor, that thing that Ethan's talking about, that hypnosis or whatever you want to call it, that energy, that place where you go, right?
they're bringing you right with it.
It's like a
doing all the
fucking
work,
tractor beam. They will suck you right in with them, and like as quickly as you look into their eyes, and you're like just there, and it's like, and it's not like, it's like riding the easiest wave you've ever ridden in your life. It can be the hardest thing in the world, and it can be the easiest thing in the world. When you're with a great actor, it's just if the scene's
that's the real paradox. Is like all the stuff that I'm the most proud of. The weird thing about it is felt very easy at the time, and the shit where you're banging your head against the wall, trying to get blood from a stone, and killing yourself, and the whole thing, and it ends up fucking feeling empty. And the thing about the stuff that I'm proud of is my insecurity is like, should be harder than this, right? Are we like we working hard enough? Are we
right,
and learn to kind of just trust that. Go, it feels good. Let's just keep going.
Well, there's some scenes in this movie, without giving too much away, where there's conflict between you two guys that seems so real. And that's even harder to recreate because you guys are good friends. And you're making the movie together, and you've got this scene where you're acting in this, with the conflict with the two of you guys in the movie. But it's very fucking real.
The reason that it was real is that I like that scene. The reason it works, I think, is because he's coming at me, and he really needs to know something. And I'm completely blanking him. Like, he's going, you gotta tell me what's going on, man.
Yeah.
He's like, it's awesome. Like, what is the thing? And I'm just like literally kind of blanking him in this bizarre way, which like was really frustrating him in real life because he was, because that feeling of like, dude, it's fucking, tell me, dude, it's you and me. Like, when he finally goes, he screams out, I don't trust you right now. That's a fucking problem, right? Which is like what you would say to an old friend. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing? Like,
like the betrayal.
Tell me the betrayal is that,
or tell me the truth.
Lie to me, or tell me the truth.
Don't fuck to me and like step outside our whole relationship, and all of a sudden
just
act like,
give me this weird look of just like, I don't know, like. And so when we were doing the scene, it was really fucking pissing him off. I could see him like getting.
The one line that wasn't written that I saw that I didn't remember doing was, "I would have never fucked you like this."
I would have never fucked you like this. Yeah.
Which I didn't even remember saying. Is George, I like that. Keep that thing. I wouldn't have fucked you. And I thought I was like, what is he? I thought, what did I? And I so watched the playback. It was one of those rare moments again. It was like where it was that thing of you doing all the work by not doing anything, which I didn't expect that to be the choice that you made, and it just was confusing and felt like just leaving you out in the fucking cold. I think the only thing I could rely on is like I wouldn't do this to you.
So do you have, in those moments where you're ad-libbing a line, where a line comes, is it just that feels like that's what you say?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like he couldn't stop from saying it.
Right.
But you have to be working with somebody that makes that okay. You know what I mean? Because the part of your brain that will like govern you or tell you something's not okay, whatever, will step in if it's sort of like, listen, I expect you to fucking do this box. And there's directors and writers who really care about every word precisely, and that and that's how they do it, and that's fine. And that can be great too. For me, like I find it becomes more interesting, and sometimes better stuff happens if you actually feel like you don't have to say any of the lines. I don't have to say any of the lines in the scene. Then I'll tend to say the ones that feel right. But like it's that fake thing that never happens in life, which is I'm never sitting here talking to you and think, what's my next line?
Right.
What am I supposed to say, and how should I say that?
And it's not about the lines ever. It's not about the words. It's about what's the scene about? What's happening in the scene?
It's one of the reasons why Curb Your Enthusiasm is so great. Yeah. Because Larry David just gives you a place to get to.
Yeah.
Like
gives them a loose agenda of what's going to happen.
And then films a bunch of stuff, and everybody figures it out.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that show's about the awkward shit in between when people are missing each other or not,
Yeah.
not sure of themselves
Always,
and
yeah.
a little embarrassed. And
Fucking
maybe,
genius show.
It really is.
Well,
Yeah.
and people talk like we're talking. Like you occasionally talk over each other.
Yeah.
There's a stumble. There's no one like what? What the fuck are you talking? There's weirdness to
Because what's also happening is that forces you to really listen, right? And that is the hardest thing to kind of learn for young actors. I think is it's really all about listening. And like I did a bunch of movies with Paul Greengrass, and that's how he works, where you just know the agenda going in. You know some basic things that you know what your guy needs going in. Like I was playing a chief warrant officer, and I had to go through a door, and there was a guy, and I needed to interrogate him. And this is what I needed to know from him. I needed to secure the house with my guys, and I needed to get to this guy. We needed to make sure everybody here was secure. So, and he put me with a bunch of real combat veterans, and we fucking went in, and they're
which
the
is
extras.
another thing that does your job for you.
It's just being around the real people.
Joe putting the cops from Miami, all in these parts, and it just like by osmosis, you feel more legitimate. The thing feels more authentic to the audience. You don't know why, because you don't know what the fucking culture is of the tactical narcotics team in Miami. But when you see the real guys, you kind of you're like, yeah, that seems right.
And you
Miami
hang
was a
out with
perfect place to have it too.
Yeah.
Miami.
Well,
such
it's
a
also
fucking nutty
specific to
place.
this because it's based on this real tactical narcotics team in Miami, and the guy who ran this guy Chris Cassiano is Joe's friend, and he's the guy that my character is based on. So Chris. We went. We rode along with Chris down there. We went with that team and watched them operate, and then hung out with them. And then they came up, and they were, all in the movie. And Chris was around as a technical advisor the whole time. So any question, like little details. All right, how do I go through this door? What do I do? What do you do here? What's the protocol here? What all of that stuff was kind of overseen by him, so that it was how they really do it.
That whole fucking town is so. Did you ever see Cocaine Cowboys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
The entire fucking graduating class of the police academy one year either wound up murdered or in jail.
That's what happens. All of a sudden, you push so much fucking money into something,
Oh, yeah.
right? And it's like before they even kind of figured out, like, and there wasn't even a lot of stigma. It was like, cocaine, whatever. It's kind of rich guys, fun drug. But it's just some statistic about like, the amount of money in the banks in Miami was like the same as the rest of the country.
More
Where do you
banks
think that's
per
coming
capita in Miami than anywhere else in the country.
Right.
Because they were just laundering money.
Right.
And they got away with it. They
Have you
literally
ever-
got away with it.
Have you ever flown over Bimini? The island right over- So if you ever fly over Bimini, there are all these like Cessnas underwater, all these planes like around the island. Because what they used to do, Bimini's like the closest. It's 50 miles off the coast of Florida. They would come in with a plane full of drugs and just crash the plane into the water. They would land it
on purpose?
On purpose. Because there's no runway on Bimini. There's no.
It's like, fuck it, we're going to dump the plane in the
They
water
would
and
have
dig it out?
10 cigarette boats, like a flotilla of boats waiting. They would crash the plane. They'd offload the drugs as the plane was sinking, right? And then they'd put it. The Coast Guard figures it. They're always coming for them. That's why they have 10 boats. They throw the drugs into one of the boats, and they got a 1 out of 10 chance of making it. They just scatter,
And
the Coast Guard
cost
goes
of the
after
plane.
one of them and hopes they get the right one. And not, it's just like, no, it's just taking a cruise tonight. What's the problem, officer? But the planes are still all submerged. Like the water's so clear you can see.
How many fucking Oh, wow.
Oh, there you go.
That's crazy. How
Yeah.
many fucking planes are out there?
I flew over it probably 20 years ago, but I mean, there's. Yeah.
That was an
I don't know
is
how long. But
wild.
if you think of probably the cost of one of those little Cessnas, probably wasn't. I mean, with the amount of drugs they were moving on.
That
Look at
is
there you go.
Fucking wild.
That's crazy. They're kind of landing where it's sort of shallow.
Yeah, they land and it's like
Fuck it, we can swim.
5 to 10 feet of water, and what do they land at? Whatever, 55 knots. So you just try
Water
to.
looks nice too. Like, yeah, sure, you can buy it.
Wow. It won't be comfortable, but I mean, Sully landed a 737
Yeah,
or whatever
right.
it was in the
Right.
water.
Yeah. Fucking wild. What a crazy part of our culture that happened.
Yeah.
That the whole cocaine run during the 80s in particular, like
Yeah.
Miami Vice, all that shit. Like
Yeah.
it's like it shaped the entire country.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
I just remember that one guy in that documentary who was like, I think he was from Boston, and he was like the pilot, and he had figured out the route, and he was like, man, like we could have gotten away with this forever. It was somebody talked, and he knew that's the only way we would have been caught.
By
He
the
was
way,
like, I had it all. He was clearly really smart.
A ton
He
of
had, like-
guys did too. You know what I mean? There's a whole lot of people out there that were like, yeah, we had a nice run back then. That's why I got 8 houses. You know, it's like,
Oh yeah, that's one of the real crimes that people got away with, was bringing cocaine into this country. There's a lot of people that got very wealthy, including banks, which is just really crazy.
banks with the jewelry companies,
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
There was like more Jaguar dealerships in Miami than everywhere else in the country. And he was like, doesn't pay to ask questions. So, yep, I guess a lot of people like our cars here.
You don't say all cash, sure.
Yeah, we can make you a deal, sure.
Well, how many backyards in Miami still to this day have bags just buried somewhere that nobody knows about?
It's probably
Yeah, I
worth
bet.
just checking. You know?
Yeah.
When you buy a
Like,
house in
yeah,
Miami,
exactly.
just dig the yard up.
Well, at least find out who owned it before you. Oh, he's a pilot.
Yeah.
Get a truck. Get a tractor. It's time to dig up the backyard. I mean, one of those guys in the films had millions of dollars just buried in his backyard. They had nowhere to put it.
Right.
They were making so much money, they just had to bury it places.
That's fucking crazy.
Well, it's why it's a perfect backdrop for the film, because, that the situation that the cops, without giving away too much of the plot, but the situation that the cops are dealing with is a very real situation. I mean, so many DEA agents turn dirty. So many cops turn dirty. It's because they just get
so much
confronted.
temptation. Man.
Yes.
It's like you take these people, you got like 6, 7 people, they fucking work for a living, they have the same bullshit they have to deal with, and there's $20 million. And it makes for a great like drama too. Even like with the performances, because all of a sudden somebody's thinking like, okay, how are they going to react? Who's gonna be the first person to say, I'm going to have to turn this all in, and like getting to play that shit. And for me also, I like, without being, sanctimonious or preachy, because I really think movies, we're talking about like what they do well. What they do very poorly is deliver messages or lecture. As soon as you get into that thing, the audience is like, I'm going to go to church for that or fucking school for. I don't need that shit here. But I like that what was underneath it is like, this is a fucking hard job, and that there's a lot of value. Like these characters, the ones that are trying to do their job, are trying to get through the day. And just at the end of the day, have done their job like they said they were going to do, adhere to the fucking ethics that they're supposed to, and at the end of the day, be able to sleep at night and believe there's some value in not fucking stealing the money or flipping somebody over, you know what I mean, and doing all that shit. And that's the win. The win doesn't have to be get away with the bag of money or fucking, save the world from, the evil scientist laser beam or whatever. It's like, at the end of the day, if you can fucking live with yourself and say, look, I acquitted myself according to what the fucking expectations were and what am I true to my word. And I think there's I don't know, that affected me. I found that kind of moving. And you can't do it if you create like, if it's to credit to Joe's script, like just 2-dimensional characters. Oh, I'm the hero, I'm the villain, or this person would never do that. They all have to be real people. Like you would be subject to like temptation, and money just represents whatever that thing is you think you want, or that's going to make your life better. It's something different to everybody, but and especially when you're facing like real, the custody thing or the sick relative or whatever it is. It's a real thing. Nobody's immune to that kind of temptation. Sometimes I think it's cavalier to be like, oh well, you're dirty. You're not putting people in a very tough situation a lot of times, particularly if they're feeling like undervalued. Like the woman, the scene where Catalina's like, I get fucking pissed, I get yelled at, I get shit on. You know what I mean? Like I'm out here grinding every fucking day. It's a lot to ask, and I think it's worth kind of making that heroic without sort of indicating too much.
No, it's really well written because there's no suspension of disbelief moments. And that's hard to do in a big blockbuster action movie. There's always one moment in a movie where you're like, what?
Come on.
How did he do that?
Well, that's convenient.
You guys don't have any of those. There's none of that. And I loved it. I loved that aspect of it too, where it felt like all of it was like, I believed it. It.
And that's really a credit to Joe and his taste, and that's why we really thought like this guy knew how to make narc. He kind of obviously understood this world and understood that it has to, above all, it has to feel real. And that's why he was open to like, okay, whatever happens, you throw in a line, maybe it's good. You can't get your feeling hurt if it's not, but like you got to be able to take that shot. And we're all down trying to spend time with people. I mean, I kind of feel for these cops. A bunch of actors descend on you, and they're like, "What kind of sweatshirt is that?" It's like,
It was like that Michael J. Fox, James Woods movie. Remember that movie? I forget what it was called, but Michael J. Fox is an actor following around James Woods. He's studying him for a character, and James Woods is a real detective, and he's just like, "Get this guy away from me." I kept thinking of that.
What kind of hair gel you use?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like all these questions, But they were very tolerant of us, which was nice and really, really helpful. Because it's always details. It's always details. It's like, how fastidiously do you kind of mine for those details? Because I've always been convinced that, like, an audience, it's like you were saying, they don't analyze why they don't believe something. They feel it. They just don't believe it. Yeah. And it's usually because those details are, you don't get those.
And that's the only thing. Like, I'm not great at imagining something. Let's invent this. I was just saying, everything that I've done, like that I like, has been a result of something I found in research. Like for the town, I went down and just went through all the prisons, out there in Massachusetts, federal prisons, state prisons, and sat down and talked to guys who robbed trucks and banks. And, kind of sometimes, you want to know, and then sat down with the FBI guys and was like, what are they like? And the great shit, for me is that, and I'm in at Walpole, or I'm in the prison of Dedham or whatever. And I'm to some guy, I said, like, after talking to him for 2 hours, I was like, is anything just fucking weird ever happened or fucked up? Anything you remember? The guy was like, yeah, one time, we were coming out of this thing. We robbed this truck, and, we had the mask. We got the switch car, and we drove around the corner and whatever. We pull up, and we get out with fucking guns, the mask, the whole thing. And we look over, and it's this cop sitting there doing construction duty. And I was like, right then, he tell me the story. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, what happened? He goes, he looked at us. We looked at him. He looked the other way.
Whoa.
And I was like, really? He goes, yeah. He didn't want to end up on the wall at the VFW. It was like,
these guys with full automatic weapons, masks on, switching cars.
I was like, all right, I'm putting that in the movie.
And it's a great moment in the town, like in the movie. Because, Renner, they all jump out of the things.
I remember that scene.
Here it is.
Yeah, exactly. It was like,
it's great. And it's this awkward, they just stop. And this dude, he sees them. They see him.
He's like, fuck, we have to kill this guy.
Nope. He turns away.
Okay.
Wow.
It's such a great, but that's straight from research, which I always loved that story. And then the line is here. He put it here.
And one on up at the wall of the VFW. Yeah.
Wow.
It was a great,
It's a great line.
It was such a simple explanation for what do you think he did, and why, like, and that's exactly what it would have been. Like, that guy, the next day's picture would have been up in the wall at the VFW.
Yeah.
And he knew it, and everybody knew it. He decided he didn't want to do it like that. That was, and that kind of stuff is, I don't know, it's very human calculations and interact. I mean, it's a very extreme version of it, but it also doesn't have, sometimes it's not dramatic at all. It's like, yeah, that was an easy decision. And the guy never says anything. No, I didn't say anything, and kind of can't really blame him, It's,
The Town was a great fucking movie too, man. And I knew a lot of people like that, from boxing gyms and stuff. I knew a guy who was a hitman for Whitey Bulger.
Really?
I knew a guy who's a friend of a brother of mine who went to jail for murder, for killing people. Yeah.
What town did you grow up in?
I lived in Newton.
You did?
I grew up I lived in Jamaica Plain for a little while. And I lived in Newton, but I spent a lot of time in Boston because I was fighting. Right. I was mostly training. And so I was around a lot of these like very shady characters who were in the fighting world. Yeah. And a lot of them had backgrounds in crime. One of the guys that I trained with, he went to jail for a little while, and then he got arrested because a guy got killed, and they broke every bone in his body with a hammer and kept injecting him with cocaine to keep him awake while they were doing it. And then they cut his hands off and cut his head off.
Jesus
and this
Christ.
Guy that I used to train with got arrested for that.
Jesus. Wow.
Yeah, he didn't wind up going to jail for that. He's dead now, but he was somehow or another at least peripherally involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't do any fighting, but I went around and found a lot of one of the things about being an actor is people will talk to you, which is a fucking amazing gift. Even if somebody's like, oh yeah, I killed guys, they'll just come out and like it's kind of the rules all of a sudden don't apply. Like these guys in the prison, what the fuck are they going to talk? You know what I mean? But they're like interested in it for whatever, and so you avail yourself of that, and then I had like we had people around that movie who everybody knew. Yeah, he did that job. He never got arrested, and so like people meet and talk to him, and it's interesting because such a good lesson for doing this job, which is that they're never how you think they're supposed to be, like the murderer person. Right. There's always something a little. I remember one guy was supposed to be like this really violent, kind of loose cannon fucking guy who supposedly had done all this shit, stabbed and killed 2 people at Faneuil Hall and shot these guys in a robbery. And he like shows up with his polo shirt, kind of tucked in, He's how's it going? Just like I never would have fucking put this guy on fucking killing 4 people. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, have a good time. So I love that one movie, and you're just thinking, fuck, man, like this is why. And it's a really good lesson for like, we tend to read a script and okay, this guy's the tough guy, and he's going to be It's like you work with this, like. I had the opportunity to train with these Delta guys. Like, it's the most elite special forces combat fucking operators in the world. I mean, I suppose the SEALs will take exception to that, but just numerically, right? I think there's been less than 900 guys ever in the history of Delta. You meet them, and they're not the biggest guys. They're not the toughest guys. They're not trying to fucking be hard, and they're the most relaxed, at ease. And I found myself just being like, finally, I was like, what? Can I just ask you, what do you think makes somebody like qualify for the Delta Force? Like, what's a good Delta operator? It's like, problem solving. Problem solving? The guy goes, yeah, it's probably like your job. I was like, no, let me tell you, no, it isn't. It's really not like my job. I appreciate it. There's a very big fucking difference. He's like, you solve problems. Like, no one's trying to kill me. See, that's the thing. But that was the closest insight I got to it, which was, I've always kind of thought this about like a guys like Brady or something. There's guys that just don't get tight, and that they are kind of able to problem solve when the problem is like, well, that helicopter's crashed, and we're 200 miles inside Afghanistan, and we're outnumbered fucking 6-1. How do you think we should get home? Like, just having your wits about you to make that calculation, while, by the way, you're in a fucking gunfight and things, I'm sure that does make, because those are the people where I'd be in a fucking panic and not have no idea what to do, and you get like attracted to the person who's like seems to have it like, hey, it's good, we're gonna be okay. Everybody get your shit, we're going over here. You'll just follow that guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, but it's it's not always the most. Maybe it's just because they're so confident. They're not like I don't need to prove that I can kick anybody's ass. I don't even get in fights. Like I have a weapon. You know what I mean? It's kind of like. It's just it surprises me how those kinds of like extraordinary experiences in people or extraordinary people don't always manifest themselves in how they show up.
Right, we have caricatures in our head of what like these tough people are like. Well, you see that about MMA fighters. Like there's a lot of MMA fighters. You meet them, they're like the sweetest, nicest, friendliest people in the world.
I remember going to one of the events in L.A. I think it was at Staples, and I was backstage and was talking to one of like the lawyers for the UFC about, we were talking about Conor McGregor, and he was telling me a great story about him. And this guy walks up, and he's in a like chinos, like khaki pants, and like a blue button-up, like kind of business shirt with spectacles, and he's very small. And I kind of don't really regard him, and I'm still hearing this story. And then Patrick goes, Matt, do you know Henry? And I turn, and it's Henry Cejudo. And I'm like, this fucking guy could wreck me right now. Like, absolutely fucking destroy me. And he is the guy that some dummy would try to pick on.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like he does not, he's not carrying himself. Like he just is the thing, And
you find out a little bit too late.
Yeah, don't find that one out late. Yeah.
A lot of guys do, unfortunately. Yeah, that's well, they don't have to prove themselves, right? They do it all the time. The same with Delta Force guys. Like this idea, like this like outwardly brash, tough guy. Usually that kind of machismo and that's bullshit. Yeah. That's you're using that because you're insecure. Yeah. The secure people are very calm and genuinely very friendly.
Really nice.
Yeah,
that's been my experience.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
It's kind of beautiful too. I've kind of like. what a great guy. And you feel like, that's nice of you to be so sweet to me because you obviously don't have to be.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right,
I'll just
right.
give you my watch if you wanted that.
Yeah, no, it is a fascinating thing. It's like we have these ideas in our head, these caricatures, of what a tough man is, what a good woman is, what a this is, what a that is. And as I think one of the beautiful things about film, when a film is really good, is you see these complex characters and it sort of like reformulates in your mind like what a person actually is.
Yeah, it's seeing all kinds of different people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I completely
I
agree.
mean, look, the fundamental like challenge I think in life and is like to find some humility, which means actually thinking you might be wrong about the shit that you're pretty sure about, and it means that like you kind of have to assume somebody else might have a point. It's not like just writing everybody else off who disagrees with you because fuck him, he's stupid, he's an asshole, he's like those are things that actually take work to get to. Because the first instinct, because you just defend your idea or whatever, it's easier is to just
that it's a zero-sum game.
Yeah,
somehow.
exactly.
Yeah, that two competing ideas can't exist.
Well, that somebody can't be a good person, like
and
disagree.
believe right.
Like if you're gonna decide, you can disagree. We don't believe this. Or I don't know. What about this? Or what about that? But once you find yourself relying on like, well, I need to like zero out this person's humanity in order to defend my idea. I think that's a pretty good indicator that like there's something wrong with the way you're thinking. Like because it can't be that you're right about everything and everyone else is bad who disagrees with you.
I think that was one of the most interesting things about The Sopranos is that the main character, the guy that you loved, was a fucking murderer.
Yeah.
He was like who would murder his friends. He was a complete mobster and a thug, but you really loved him.
Loved the shit out of
cared
that
about
guy.
It was so complicated.
I'm rewatching
Jimmy
it
was
with my
so
daughter right now.
good at doing the part
he
that
was-
you found yourself being like, I think you probably has to kill him now.
Yeah.
But
Probably
that's,
gotta kill that.
that's
He was
also
like-
that's also great. A great actor. Like there's a very famous story about Marlon Brando when he did Streetcar Named Desire, and Tennessee Williams, who wrote it, like freaked out because he was making Stanley Kowalski. He was making people empathize with Stanley Kowalski. And Tennessee Williams was like, but I wrote him as a brute. He was like a two-dimensional brute who just came and beat up his wife and was supposed to be this kind of dark looming force over the play. But Brando was like, no, he's a human being and I'm going to play him like a fucking human being. And it changed the play. But
Ultimately,
Williams,
that so
in
much
all of
more
his
reflects
writings,
life in the real
Yeah.
world.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
everybody's the hero of their story. Everyone has the reasons for why they're doing. And people don't set out to be like, I'm just gonna or hurt someone or dominate the world. Like you think, well, I got to protect what I have. It's like even not bringing back this movie, but it's like what I liked about Rip was it was kind of the slippery slope. The first time you take a little money. And then, I got to cover that. I don't want to go to jail. I have my reasons why I did that. But now I've told a lie. Now I got to cover that thing. And now you have guys who both live by this code that's very, hey, you protect the people who are with you and you got to have this fucking. And so now it's two people very similar, like by that kind of slippery slope, of ultimately find themselves, willing to kill one another. Because it's really not. I don't believe in that one choice turn. It's like more. How do you find yourself? You dig yourself in a fucking hole because you're just covering up trying to fix the last problem that's arisen. And everybody thinks is of course the roots for themselves is like empathize with themselves. That's what we have to be concerned with ourselves, our needs, our families, our basic shit. It's hard to expect people to go like, all right, and what about like what they think, and I think that's. I think it's a much more honest evaluation of people, and it allows for like complexity and forgiveness and fucking all the shit that's sort of beautiful about people, like rather than this notion of like, well, we're going to be binary, good or bad, perfect or not, whatever, and any infraction then it's like permanently stains you. It's
Right. Right. That's like what we were talking about earlier about people that have been canceled. That this idea that one thing you said or one thing you did, and now we're going to exaggerate that to the fullest extent and cast you out of civilization
in
for life.
perpetuity. Yeah,
It's fucking crazy. And it's
I would because I bet some of those people would have preferred to go to jail for 18 months or whatever and then come out and say no, but that we can't. I paid my debt. Like we're done.
Yeah.
Like can we be done? Like the thing about that. Getting kind of excoriated publicly like that, it just never ends, and it's the first thing that it just will follow you to the grave, I think.
Well, it's also this problem that people have with people that are in the public eye. They have this like desire to chop them down always, and anybody that stumbles in the public eye, they want to destroy their life. And they want to just pile on. And you're not there with them. You don't feel the empathy. You're not talking to they're not a human being. Right. It's just text on a screen.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like kind of like I was saying, like that kind of sixth grade instinct to be like, oh, he's in trouble. There's this, human, like we have dark, fucked up instincts too sometimes to like isolate people or get joy out of someone else's. They're in trouble because part of it's saying, hey, it's not me. So if you can point the finger, everyone's looking over there. We feel safer.
Right.
But it's like and to take any forgiveness out of it, is a really fucked up thing because then it makes it impossible to actually go, all right, yeah, I did that. Fuck shit, that was wrong. I get it. Because it doesn't matter. Once you've said you've done it, you become like an outcast. And I don't think anybody wants to think, like you're the sum total of who you are is your worst moment.
Right.
It's sort of like I think you want to be judged just as well. Are you capable of doing something good or something beautiful? It's not to say to forget. There's people that just over and over and over and doing horrible shit, don't care.
Right.
I get it. No one's trying to like absolve that, but you remove the ability to sort of forgive people or look at them in a complicated way, or else it's kind of become those things. It's like let's get one of ours or one of them. The instinct to get like a team, tribal oriented, and it just becomes a sport.
Yeah. It's also like, who wants to live in a world with no forgiveness and redemption?
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's just denying the very nature of human beings. Yeah. And that people do things that they regret, and then they become better people because of it. And
some of the people I would rely on the most, like trust my kids with the most, have done shit that they really regret, and was objectively wrong. And other people have been like, I did that. I fucking whether it's like addiction, I got myself down this fucking road. I did this. They're able to go, I did it. I'm sorry. It's real. I shouldn't have done it. It was wrong. Those people can become someone that's very trustworthy.
Yeah,
because you're like, this motherfucker will say. If they've done something, they'll actually look at their own behavior. They'll acknowledge it, and then you feel good, and you feel much versus someone who tells you like I always get it right. Everything's
well, yeah, it's about evolution, right? And in our own personal evolution, and we're all on our own path towards that. Like the idea of attacking someone, it's like, oh, so you aced the test? Like, put your pencil down? Like, you nailed being human? Exactly. You're done.
Well, if you did nail being human, that's not possible because you forgot about the part about forgiveness, which is a giant part.
You haven't nailed it by definition if you're out there throwing stones.
It's most of the people that I find, especially when there's someone that's publicly in trouble for something, most of the people that I know that have attacked people have a lot of questionable shit in their past. And it's almost like they're trying to hide that by going on the attack.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if I can point my finger, it's like no one's going to be...
Yeah. Oh, he's a good guy. Ben's a good guy. Yeah. He's calling them out.
Yeah, exactly.
But meanwhile,
And if you it's like you tell me to see Wake Up Dead Man, the third Knives Out movie.
Oh, it's great.
And I watched it. I really liked it. I thought it was a really interesting, like, I'm not a religious guy. I don't like that's, and I'm aware of all the like, okay, there's the religion, then there's people who's supposed to be rational. I thought it was a really beautiful movie about like what's the role of grace in life, and a really honest examination of that, like sitting side by side with, you don't believe it, but like saying it's not about like whether you're going to argue over fucking evolution. It's about like how graceful are you in your life? How much fucking dignity can you afford other people? And are you willing to recognize and see that there's maybe something bigger than yourself, and that there's a reason to try to sort of to find that grace, to get better. I thought it was really beautiful and kind of rare, and really surprised.
I was really surprised too. I kind of put it on and not thinking
I thought it was
like
Murder Mystery.
I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it too. I think it's one of the best of the three. It's
it
was my favorite of the three.
Those are great. Daniel Craig is great in that role.
He's fantastic.
Guy goes from James Bond to that, and so many other things as well.
So is Josh O'Connor
really
who played the priest. Because I first saw him on The Crown.
The Crown, I liked him a lot.
Man, what an actor he is. Really, really good.
How much film do you guys consume? Do you spend a lot of time watching films? I mean,
with the
do you
company,
consider
like,
it?
Depends.
There's a lot. Like if we're working, we're watching cuts after cuts and going to the editing room. Like there's a lot of kind of work around all the stuff that we have going that eats into a lot of time.
And mostly it's trying to keep up with what people are doing. My issue is really that, like, we've kind of developed this pattern where all these sort of movies that come out and are more interesting and very, like, they're all jammed out at the last fucking month of the year, and so all of a sudden you're trying to race
got
through all
homework.
these movies.
Yeah,
right.
I got really lucky. Like recently, my son, who's 13, decided he wants to like watch movies, and I like give him shit. I'm like, what are you fucking? We always looking at TikTok and shit. Like, let's watch a movie, and he's kind of blowing me off and rolling his eyes, and like, I mean, if you're a dad, you're kind of an asshole fundamentally. Like, come on, Dad,
Right.
you don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, he told me one time, he was like, Dad, I said, let's watch this movie. I played him the trailer. It was I can't remember what the movie was. It was a good movie, and the trailer was good. He just looks at it and goes, you know what you guys ought to do? You guys ought to work with some of the TikTok editors. It's just like, wow.
Oh, no.
Well, I went and told the editors. I told Billy and Chris that day. I was like, guys, I got news for you. You guys gotta start. But now he's like, all right, let's watch. Like, what are some movies I should watch? You got Letterboxd. You got into that thing. It's like, so I said, okay, what are the great movies? I'll give you a list. I start giving him a list. They started watching them, and so I mean, this is like heaven for me. So it's like, okay, what are you watching? King of Comedy. Like last week, I watched Taxi Driver, King of all these Scorsese movies. And it really was like, oh man, I because in my mind, I'm like, sure, I've seen that movie. I know it. I watched them again. It was like seeing it, I realized how much better they were than I even could appreciate when I watched it when I was younger. Yeah. And it was just the most beautiful fucking experience for me to watch with my son, like taking an interest in there's the older two have always been a little bit like, yeah, Dad, no, great. But hey, you guys want to come to the premiere? No, not really. You know what I mean? You guys want to come to the set? No, I'm good. And
Well, it's just too much familiarity, You grow up with a dad who's a movie star, you're just like, nah.
The kids got in, and I get it. You got to be your own person, do your thing. They have
Sure.
all their own shit, and I get, I never even expected it from my son, and I don't know that he's gonna, and I wouldn't want to lean on him like, hey, get into the family business. Most of the time, it's just like, we go to like basketball games, baseball, all that type of stuff, and but this was that was like, oh, wow, it was like so joyful. You know what I mean? To sit there and watch movies with my kid. I was like, this doesn't get better. This is the happiest I may ever be in my whole life. Right here, watch this movie. And he's like, well, he's telling me what he thinks. It's just like, honestly, the rest of it, you can fucking keep it.
That's awesome.
That's the best.
Well, it's great that you guys still love film. That it hasn't become just a job. It hasn't become a thing that you do. That you really enjoy it and love it.
Yeah, it was never a job. I mean, it really it was like an absolute dream from the time we were kids. We did fucking high school theater together, like
that's crazy.
Yeah,
it was like we're lucky to get it, and lucky to the whole idea that you could even the goal was like to make a living, to not have to be like, well, I'm an actor, slash a waiter, contractor, dental assistant, whatever the fuck it is, like actually I can earn money. And we always figured like, I don't need that much, especially if we didn't have kids.
Yeah.
Okay, we can make a living, or it's, maybe it's fucking going to be dinner theater, or maybe it's going to be writing, maybe it's going to be.
There'll be a job somewhere that we can find where we can do this and keep doing it. Yeah.
Well, there's something that I love when people love things. I spend time on YouTube watching people like fix watches. I don't know why, but I love when people make furniture. I love watching people do things that they really love, that they're invested in. I think we all have that thing in us where we see someone who's got a passion for something, someone who really loves it. And that's what everybody really wants in life, to be lost in the thing you love, to have a purpose.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah, and
I agree.
even watching someone else with true purpose is
very addictive.
It's hypnotic.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Joe versus the Volcano, where he goes in to
God.
buy luggage.
It's
He's,
one
do
of
you
our
like
favorite
luggage,
scenes
sir?
ever.
And he's like, luggage is the central preoccupation of my life. Guy's a luggage salesman, and he fucking loves
He loves
bags.
nothing more than luggage.
And by the way, I was like, okay,
and
that's
it's the
the guy I'm
greatest
going
scene.
to.
I asked Tom Hanks about that when I did Saving Private Ryan. I was like, can you tell me about that scene? Because we love this scene so much. And he named the actor. He was a Broadway actor, I guess, the guy. He came in. He worked for like one day in this scene. And he's so good in that movie. And then at the very end, he's showing him all the luggage. And Tom Hanks has unlimited money to spend. He thinks he's dying, and so he basically goes like, "Well, what's the best luggage?" And he goes, "Well, and he opens if I had the means, sir." And he opens up this thing, and there's this trunk, and it's like this music plays, and he opens it, and Tom Hanks is like, "I'll take 2 of them." And he goes, "May you live to be 1,000 years old." This is the greatest day of his life.
Oh God,
That's amazing. You guys have been in some fucking bangers, man. Saving Private Ryan, that opening film, the storming of the beach,
Unbelievable.
that might be the most realistic depiction of war that's ever been made.
So I remember reading the script, and there was all this dialogue, all this stuff that was written. And I came late because I'm only he shot it chronologically, and I'm only in the last act of the movie, basically. And he told me on set, I was saying, how did it go? The beginning, I go, there's all that dialogue with them on the boat coming in, and Steven goes, he just goes, I cut all of that out. He goes, no talking for the first 27 minutes of this movie.
Whoa.
And that was when I was like, oh my God, this movie is going to be fucking unbelievable.
Yeah,
I think Tom says like, "I'll see you on the beach" or something. He screams, guys are puking.
Look at the man next to you.
Yeah, remember
he's not going to live through it.
That was the script, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
It was. Look at the man next to you. He won't live.
He's going to die.
He's like 2 out of 3 of you are going to die. So look to your left, look to your right, and feel bad for those 2 sons of bitches because they're not going to make it. It was stuff like that. And Steve was just like, nope. No,
Wow.
No, these guys are puking. It's like the thing's up. You can just hear tick, 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 and it's just like, and then just boom, and you're into it. And also, they did this incredible, like cinema changing.
Open the shutter
all the way.
The motion blur. Skip the bleach process in developing the film.
I don't
that look.
And I don't know if they're going to 22 or 23 frames anywhere in there, maybe. But I just remember maybe it's just the open shutters, just pop, pop, pop.
But when you have the shutter, but it just means that instead of like the motion blur is what makes something that like moves across the frame quickly. If you look at each frame, it's like a blurred thing, and when you roll those 24 frames, it gives you the illusion that it moves across fluidly. And if you basically open the shutter up so you get much more light, each frame takes a super sharp picture. And when you run those together, like the piece of dust goes...
And so the mortar explosions are going like, tick, 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 and you get that feeling that you're adrenalized and you're seeing, you know what I mean? And it's just, and nobody had ever done it.
It's just the master of the thing.
Yeah.
He understood how to use the tools and combined with a great idea. And that's just masterful. Yeah. Like, that's just how you do it. There's nobody who directs movies who doesn't go, it's Spielberg.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Yeah. It's just like you say, one of those things, a guy that's passionate and also, caring about something, it's with that much passion is kind of connected to greatness.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, why we love to see that, whether, sports, fucking, fighting or whatever it is, there's something that makes you kind of love being alive and also love that person when you go, fuck, like when you see Michael Jordan, like that was that whole movie that we did airs really all about like, what does it mean to be great? And how does it like touch everybody and change everybody and make people want to fucking improve their own lives because somebody's just better at that thing than anybody else in the world.
Yeah.
It's transfixing, I mean, I find that really fascinating. Like people who are great at something and the mystery of like, well, what is that like? And what does that do to your life? And how did you get that way? And what does it take, And
what's the cost? Because to truly be great at something, you have to kind of almost abandon everything.
I've seen that in various ways, like in that kind of just empirical personal study. I haven't seen anybody who I think like qualifies for that who didn't also seem to be really suffering.
100%.
And you're like, damn, you should be so happy. You're the greatest. And interviewers always go, how do you feel right now? And there's that sense that like either it's never finished or it's never enough or they can't enjoy it or they're carried. It's that line we put in air where it's like, and you have to be that thing.
You have to be that thing.
Like it's a kind of a burden too, in a way.
100%.
And I just see that. And that's why we want these heroes and people who are great to, I don't know, flourish and have their life and have it all in hand. Like, there's all this tragedy and all this stuff that happens too. And yeah, that's like you said. There seems to be a real cost.
Well, there's always a massive cost in personal relationships because there's no way you have the time for other things. And the obsession that you have to be the best at something, you have to abandon almost all your concern for everything else. You have to have this single-minded focus. And that comes with a cost for the rest of your life because you damage relationships. You feel like a piece of shit.
And you see that up close, and like that's not admirable,
Right.
You don't give a fuck about anybody
Right.
else. No, I do. I just care about this more.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so imagine that. You're making the sacrifices and it's causing injury to people and you know it and you don't want to hurt them, but you can't help it. And you're getting rewarded for it. You know, it's complicated. Yeah, it's
crazy because you inspire all these people that don't know you and you ruin all your relationships.
Right. That's right.
maybe that's why I say don't meet your heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
There's something to it, man. There really is. But it's just, we all grow from it. There's a fuel to watching greatness. There's a thing that hits you and lights you up.
Yeah.
Where you want to do more, you want to be better, you want to, whatever it is that you can do, whatever it is you do, you become more, whether it's a great game, a winning touchdown, whether it's a great film, a great
inspires
song.
you.
It lights you up. And it's the fuel that we all live off of that consumes, that like we consume to make our culture move forward.
Yeah. You know, there's like a sacrificial element to it, the people that do it, and we all feed off of it, you know? And it feels like, well, that's the person that doesn't get enough out of it, you know?
Right. But in great film, I mean, how many lives have been changed by decisions made after great films? Like when I was a kid, I think I was like 7 or 8 or something when Rocky came out, and I saw it and immediately ran around the block. I've never run in my life. I was eating raw eggs.
Right.
I'm like, this is gonna change my life. Like there's things that happen when you see something truly great that it makes you want to be better as a human being. It makes you
I remember where I was when I saw Denzel Washington play Malcolm X. Went to the movie theater, watched that movie, and I remember leaving. I was 19 or something. I'm thinking, I want to be a better man. I thought that in my mind, you know, because of what I had seen this actor do and the way, you know, that was the only real conscious thought I had. But I remember having it and kind of being surprised by it, you know. And it does. It that shit can, you know, it's really touched me, you know, a lot of fucking people's work. And that's why you get that, like, you know, you see people and you want to let them know, you know what I mean, and tell them. And I always think people come to go, oh, hey, I love that movie. I always feel like, you don't have to say that. You know what I mean?
Right.
It makes me kind of uncomfortable, and I don't ever like put myself in with those figures who I think are like, no, but there's these towering giants who have done this. You know, I don't know. It's I finally kind of arrived to a place where it was like, those uncomfortable people, I saw Good Will Hunting. It made me want to go out to Hollywood and write a script. And I think, oh, shit, how'd that go? You know what I mean? Like, sorry, right, man. Like, at a certain point, I figured, okay, you know what? Whatever it is, like, great. That's the thing.
The cost of your fame, you know, that you have to, there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to come up to you and they want to say those things to you. And like wanting them to say those things to you is the opposite of the mindset that you need to make those things.
Right, exactly.
Which is, it's so counterintuitive. You think like once you become really successful and you make a bunch of great things, it's going to be awesome having all these people come up to you like, no, I'm doing something else right now. And I can't be all wrapped up in the fact that I'm changing your fucking life.
And also I can't be satisfied or take any fucking joy in that because I don't think I'm good enough yet. I need to fucking, you know what I mean?
Right, never satisfied. Yeah, you can't. And that's the darkness of trying to do something great. You'll never be satisfied.
You see it in a lot of the fighters, the same kind of thing, the great fighters.
Well, also, fighters have a very small window of greatness. There's only like a certain amount of years where you can burn the RPMs at the red line, and then eventually the knees go, the back goes. You start.
Is it earlier than other sports? It must be. Yeah.
Yes, I think so because like Tom Brady is still elite. I bet he could probably play football right now. I bet he, you know, how old's Tom now?
40? He's probably 47 or 8 now, probably. Yeah.
I bet he could still play. You know?
Yeah, I mean, but that's a very specific skill position, and the way he played it,
but running back, no,
right.
But at
cornerback,
the elite levels of MMA, especially with USADA testing and and now drug-free sport testing, when they are making sure that people aren't on testosterone and growth hormone and all these different things, like you have 9 years. You have 9 years at peak performance. That's legitimate.
How
Like,
long's John Jones been going?
John Jones is a freak of all freaks. Because John Jones beat Daniel Cormier when he was on coke. That was one of the funny things he said in the press conference for the rematch. Daniel was talking shit. He goes, "I beat you when I was on coke." I mean, he was getting arrested. He was partying. For when he fought Gustafsson, he beat Gustafsson, and he didn't train at all. I talked to his trainer. He's like, he didn't even show up at the gym. He was fucking never there. He was never training. He could just show up and beat everybody's ass.
I saw a thing on my Instagram feed of a fighter, and I don't know who it was, but he was a heavyweight, and he goes, I had the chance to spar with John Jones, to work with John Jones, and he goes, I knew about it months ahead of time. He goes, I got my nutrition, everything was absolutely flawless. I got, my sleep, everything was on. He goes, I show up at the gym that morning. He goes, it's me and 5 other guys. He goes, he comes in, I think he went to sleep at 4 in the morning or something. He was out all night, and he goes, he ran through all 6
That's my
of us.
buddy Brendan Schaub.
Is that who it was? Okay, yeah. It was the funniest story. I was like, and he goes, and then I just knew,
there's levels.
That's a level. Like,
Yeah.
but imagine being that elite and realizing there's another level.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Brendan was a top 10 heavyweight, and John wasn't even a heavyweight. John was a light heavyweight. It was a lower weight class, and he just beat everybody's ass. And he said, this is his warm-up. He just get in there and just fuck everybody up. I mean, he has a unique aptitude for MMA, but also he had 2 brothers that were super
Chandler
athletes.
Jones. Yeah, I played for the Patriots.
And Arthur.
Yeah.
And so these guys are super athletes. And so they're beating the shit out of each other all the time.
Right,
So they're like constantly in competition with elite athletes from the time he was a
they were
child.
tiny, yeah.
So he was just so tuned into competition, and he was so intelligent. Like, his fight IQ was above and beyond everyone's. And he would study tape meticulously.
Well, that spinning kick that he did to that
Stipe Miocic,
Stipe, where he said and I think he thanked his Taekwondo coach, and he said he had been working on this one specific kick from both sides, because of something he saw on the tape, and he got it off and hit this guy so hard, not even on his liver side. He hit him on the other side, and you see it shudder through his entire organ structure.
Yeah, his heel was deep into his body cavity,
It
like
was
all the way
it
up
was
to his
so
fucking
gnarly.
spine. Yeah,
but he just practiced this one specific. And he was like,
that's what tells you
and he
it's not
even
just
said, he
the
goes, it is a devastating shot. Like, there's not a human being who could take that.
no, it's like getting hit by a car.
Yeah.
Because when
Getting
you
hit
do
by
it,
a car in one spot,
right,
your body, you know what I mean?
The size of a foot, the
Yeah,
size of a 13 foot.
Oh yeah, here it is.
right
Watch
here.
this.
He sets him up. Boom.
It's just, and
Why?
it's like, it's over. It's over.
And this is John moving up to heavyweight because light heavyweight wasn't a challenge anymore. He decided to become a 2-division champion. I mean, John was a freak.
You see it rumble through.
And by the way, that was almost a little bit glancing because he caught him with a bent leg.
Right,
like,
right.
It wasn't
a
even
full
fully
extension, yeah.
extended, which, was even more devastating. But John realized that as a heavyweight, he didn't have the power that he had at light heavyweight. And so he said, the most powerful kick is a spinning back kick. So I'm just going to work on that kick over and over again because that's the one tool that I have that can knock a heavyweight out with one shot.
Wow. Okay.
That's just
So it's not
intelligence.
just the physicals, if he's also like a genius.
Oh, he's a
It's
genius. Well, he's also he's the most meticulous when it comes to game planning and study. He will not take a short notice fight. Even a guy that he could fucking beat any day of the week. He could wake him up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He could fuck that guy up. He will not take that fight unless he gets a full training camp to prepare for that fight. Well, it's just, greatness. But John's troubled. John's been arrested a bunch of times and DUIs and all kinds of crazy shit. And he's a wild fella. And, and that pursuit of greatness, I'm sure, has cost him a lot of shit in his personal life.
Yeah.
But, when he knocked Stipe out and then did the Trump dance in front of the whole world, for that moment, he's on top of the world, But then, again, it's like the same thing. You're as soon as you get back, like, what's next? There's another challenge. It doesn't matter how many people love you now. Like, it's not good enough. There's someone else looming. You got to beat this guy.
That seems like a kind of an agonizing thing to both have the complete compulsion to have to get to the next level, and the next level keeps fucking moving the goalposts.
I'll never forget. I interviewed Matt Hughes after he lost to BJ Penn. He lost the welterweight title to BJ Penn. And I'm interviewing him inside the octagon. He said, I'm going to be honest with you, it was actually a relief. And he goes, the pressure of being the champion and having someone chasing you for so ever in the whole world chasing you. He goes, I'm going to be honest. I thought it was an incredibly brave moment for a guy to say that, who is, just this fucking amazing human being, this warrior, to say, I just got to be honest, it's a relief. Losing my title feels like a relief. And I was like, wow, like that is so brave to be that honest in front of the, because everybody's like, you just got your ass kicked. He's like, this is a relief. It took a burden off my back. I'll be back. I'm going to regroup, but I needed that. I needed to just step off the fucking top of the hill for a little while.
Breath.
Jesus Christ.
You got to be like a great actually relief to be able to say something like that. It's kind of a gift. Instead of feeling like you got to hide or pretend it and go, I'm relieved. It's like it was a lot to carry. And now,
Well, the thing about fighting is everything you try to hide gets exposed. You're exposed completely during camp because they're doing these round, will they take like...
Sorry if I was here.
Yeah, smoke up. They're taking 5 guys and they're rotating them in with you. So you're doing 5 rounds with fresh guys. Jesus. So you got one guy who's fucking warmed up, getting ready for you, and then you're fucking out of breath. They'll give you a 30-second break instead of a minute, and then they're throwing in these monsters, and you're exposed. You're getting beat in training. You're getting smothered in training. You're exhausted. You're always reaching your limits because the only way to surpass those limits is to hit them.
Push through
you got to hit them, and then they got to figure out where their limit is. And okay, next week we're going to do 1 extra round. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do more strength and conditioning. We're going to push you past wherever your capacity is right now. So you're always breaking. You're always at the point where you can do no more because it's the only way to, and you can only maintain that. Like the condition that they get in when they step into the octagon, it's not possible to maintain that.
No,
right.
You
can only get.
You have to aim at that one
Yes.
moment, and
you have to peak, and then if you fuck up and overtrain, which a lot of those guys do, just because they're such savages, they never want to leave the gym. Then they don't peak right, and then they come in and they're exhausted, and they didn't recover properly, and then in between rounds they're too tired, and they can't go out for the next round. They're too beat up. That happens too.
I imagine that level of exhaustion has to be just insane when you overtrain.
Oh God!
In an actual championship,
and
fight.
you realize you can't bounce back, and this guy is fucking blasting your legs with kicks and hitting you with punches, and you can't get out of the way anymore.
Do you think who was it? Was it Khabib who said that they should just do 25-minute? Just
a lot of people said that. That's a what? Songs are playing. What's going on?
A little theme song going there.
Fucking technology.
The Teskey brothers playing in my pocket.
That's hilarious.
Sorry about that.
Well, Hoist Gracie always said that. Like that was how he fought in the early days.
They just straight 25 minutes.
Because he was like, look, he goes, if we're on the ground, he goes, I don't want them to stand back up again and go in between rounds. And he goes, I need time to cook them. That's what he would say. Yeah. It was, that's what jiu-jitsu is all about. Jiu-jitsu is all about staying one step ahead of you until you become exhausted, and and then they eventually finish you.
Like a
You're just
boa constrictor.
Yeah. It's the real. But there's this balance of like making it interesting for people to watch. I've been a proponent of no stand-ups. Don't ever stand anybody up. When a guy takes you down, like you get an advantage at the beginning of the round anyway because a striker gets to be standing up when you didn't earn it. Yeah. So you should never get stood up in a fight. I don't care if the guy's doing nothing. If he's holding you down and you can't get up, that's how it should be. So it's more realistic, but it's the balance of it being a sport.
People want to watch.
Yeah,
right?
making it, because when people grab someone and take them to the ground, nothing happens, people go, boo. Right. You hear it in the audience, and then the referee gets a little motivated and he stands people up. And I'm always like, don't stand him up.
I never thought of it that way, that the beginning of the round starts to the advantage of the
Always. You're in a position you didn't earn. Right. You never got back up. I think they should put them right back to where they were at the end of the round. Because it's one fight. It's not 5 fights. Right. So if you start it standing up at the beginning of each round, that's a new fight.
Yeah, right.
In a way,
though,
it's at least a new
you're pitching, like, how quickly would the UFC go out of business?
Real quick.
30 seconds, they're on the ground, and then it's 24.5 minutes.
Dude, I'm a terrible businessman. I would give the fighters more money. I would fuck up the whole business model. I would get rid of the cage. I would have them all fight in a basketball court. Just put mats on the ground in the basketball court. I don't think you should have a cage. I think the cage gets in the way. It becomes a way to get back up because you press your back up
You
against the
press your back.
cage. You can
I
use it
see.
to
Yeah,
stand
yeah,
back up
yeah.
again, and you're in the middle of the center of a mat. It's very difficult to get back up, and that's realistic.
Right.
You know, you're using a foreign object to help you perform.
To help you, yeah, right.
Yeah, but
right.
you know, there's the whole macho thing about people fighting in a cage, and it's like they lock you in there and clinch, you know, and
match. Yeah.
yeah. It's just, but I mean, in terms of like inspirational performances and things that when you see like the human spirit elevated to the highest possible place, when two very skilled men or women are fighting in a cage where they prepared for this for 3 fucking months, and then you know the referee's like, "Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!" And it's like that moment, like it's not like anything else in all of sports.
I think that's the moment that like people show up for.
Yeah.
Because they build the intensity. It's the same with like the old Tyson fights or whatever.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
now it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And you can't help but have that feeling once it, you know. And yeah, some fights end up being disappointing, whatever. But that moment is always there.
Well, Tyson was a crazy example of what we were talking about with greatness, because like you could dedicate your whole life. You could fucking get up in the morning at the right time. You could eat all the right foods. You could do all the right training.
Wasn't
but
gonna
then you
help
see
you.
that fucking guy. You're like,
You're just gonna
oh
smoke
no,
you in 13 seconds.
there's nothing I can do. I have no chance.
no-
You know, by
chance,
looking
zero
at him,
chance.
so he had just
Yeah.
a look in his eye. And it was one of the only fighters where you just see the other guy was scared.
Yeah.
Usually they at least hold themselves together where they come off like, oh, I don't know, this guy looks pretty tough. Guys would fight Tyson and just would start, and they'd feel that moment
Yeah.
too. Oh
They
shit,
just feel
they're
it,
letting
right.
this tiger out, and here he comes. And it was like,
Yeah.
Well, we're old enough to remember when he was in his prime, and those fights were like executions. You didn't
Yeah.
want to pay
I remember when
for
he
the
fought
pay-per-view because they were
Alex
so
Stewart.
fast.
I swear. I mean, Jamie might be able to prove me wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they cut to Alex Stewart and they cut to his wife, and she was crying. And this is when they're coming to the center of the ring, and
my
she.
God.
But by the way, for good reason. Like this
Yeah.
man might kill my husband.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
We're certainly going to beat the fuck out of him, and she knows it,
Yeah.
and the world knows it.
And
And
her
guys
husband
were
knows
ready
it.
to quit. Remember that dude, Hurricane or whatever?
Oh.
White kid who fought him?
Pete McNeely when he
his
came in?
guy
Yeah.
couldn't wait to throw the towel in. He
Yeah.
had it ready, like, you know, he was ready to go, all right, that's it. That's
The
good.
bell rings. He picks up the towel.
Yeah, you got one job. Save your guy's life. You know what I mean?
McNeely's fucked up now too. When you hear him talk, it's rough. It's rough to hear.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, I saw him get interviewed recently. That's the dark side of the sport of MMA and of fighting. You know, you
was a
talk
CTE.
like I had Johnny Knoxville on here yesterday, and Johnny Knoxville was knocked unconscious 16 times.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
like, that's what I said, and I'm like, holy shit, man. And he seems normal. Like, he doesn't seem like he's got brain damage. Now, when you're talking to guys and you know they have brain damage, they're slurring their words
Right.
and they're still fighting.
Right.
You know, their words all mumbled together. Like, you have no idea how much they're struggling.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and they're going to be struggling in a downhill slope for the rest of their life. It's not going to get better. It's
No,
going to get way worse. Because the real brain damage occurs like 10 years after the injuries. That's when it really sets in.
Really, it starts, like, just keeps atrophying.
Just keeps getting
or whatever.
worse. I mean, there's some therapies that they can do now. There's like they do, and Knoxville did some of it, like this magnetic therapy that they do that re-stimulates neuron growth, and oddly enough, mushrooms like psilocybin has been shown to
Mushrooms all of a
regenerate.
sudden cure a whole bunch of shit.
I
You
know.
It's
Well,
like,
probably always has.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
it's-
all of a sudden they acknowledging it. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that's opening the doors for them to acknowledge it is soldiers, because it's always been kind of like a left-wing thing to be into psychedelics. But all these soldiers are coming back with PTSD and drug addiction and a lot of CTE from, you know, bombs blowing up and IEDs and
yeah.
concussions. And the only thing that's helping them is psychedelics. So it's kind of like in Texas, former Governor Rick Perry has started the Ibogaine initiative. So they're using Ibogaine to help all of these different soldiers, which is ironically the drug that Hunter S. Thompson claimed Ed Muskie was on when he was running for president.
Oh, really?
Yeah, remember when he sank Ed Muskie's?
What is Ibogaine?
It's from the iboga tree, and it is a psychedelic that is in no way recreational. It is a very difficult experience. It's not fun for anybody. It's like a 24-hour trip. I haven't done it, but my friends that have done it say that it's basically like you see your entire life play out before you. You see where all your problems come from. You see where all of your emotional hitches are.
Jesus.
Yeah, and with addictions, it has an 80%, I think it's 84% with one treatment. They quit whatever they're hooked on.
What?
Not only that, it rewires the brain. So the physical pathways to addiction, like someone just addicted to opiates, gone. Completely severed. So you literally don't have a physical addiction to opiates anymore. So with one treatment, 80+% of people.
That's incredible.
With 2 treatments, it's in the 90s.
That's amazing.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
and it's been illegal, since like 1970 in this country. The
You
sweeping
say Rick Perry
psychedelics
has
act.
like a clinic or whatever. That's
Well, Rick Perry, because he's worked with soldiers and because he's worked with a lot of veterans, that and he's a very compassionate and intelligent man. He realized, like, okay, maybe I'm wrong about all this psychedelic stuff, and so he started getting behind this Ibogaine initiative. They passed it in Texas, and now they're doing it with soldiers, and they're going to do it with police officers. And I mean, police officers experience more PTSD. Like, I have a good friend who was a cop in Austin, and he said, and he was also in the military. And he said, what I saw in the military was nothing compared to what I saw as a police officer.
Really?
He goes, I was seeing death and violence on a daily basis. Yeah. He goes, when you're deployed, he goes, yeah, you're gonna see some horrible shit, but you're gonna see some horrible shit mixed in, over a course of time, where you go out and things go live. He goes, like, every day.
Every day you're going directly to somebody who's having the worst moment of their life.
And every day you're pulling someone over and they might shoot you. Right. Like, you have no idea. You're pulling up to tinted windows. You don't know what the fuck is going on. You're running the plate. The license is expired. You have no idea who's in the car. You don't know anything. And you've seen all the videos. We've all seen videos of cops getting shot down, like when they're pulling over a car. We've all seen it. And so these guys are living with this fucking PTSD all the time. And then they have to live in real life. They're supposed to go home, and they're supposed to just be a normal dad and a normal neighbor, and their fucking head is just a hurricane of chaos. And Ibogaine has been very beneficial for those people to just sort of come down and try to find the root of all this stuff and get them off pills and get them on the straight.
That's great.
Wow.
Oh, it's amazing. I don't know why we got on the mushrooms. Well, Ibogaine, because during the presidential elections, he started spreading these rumors, and it's in the documentary. What is that documentary? Is it Fear and Loathing? Gonzo.
Yeah.
Gonzo, that's right. In that documentary, Gonzo, he talks about it. So he's getting interviewed by Dick Cavett, and he goes, there was a rumor running around that Ed Muskie was on Ibogaine, and I knew about it because I started that rumor. But he made the guy.
I sold it to him.
Yeah.
So the guy completely cracked. So like this guy was like a front runner for the president, and he fucking completely cracked because everybody thought that he was on drugs. Because Hunter S. Thompson was just running around like saying there's these Brazilian witch doctors who are coming in to treat this guy. It's crazy shit.
That's great.
They were like, and Hunter would know.
Yeah.
But it's crazy that he chose Ibogaine too, because Ibogaine is like, it's not a recreational drug, and it's not a drug of addiction. It's literally a drug that stops addiction.
No, but he was the guy that would have the full the whole book's full of these fucking esoteric drugs you never heard of that he mentioned in a really casual way. Like, of course, four of us stopped to get Ibogaine at the one gas station that sold it between needles and nothing. Yeah, sure. No, of course you did.
Yeah, but it does help people that have brain damage as well. It's supposed to like cause some sort of neuroregeneration.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff out there that can help people, but a large percentage of these fighters are silently suffering, and we don't ever hear about it.
Don't they say like it's supposed to be that it's like the argument is because it's they're not using a glove, like that football is supposed to be where, I mean, wasn't that the sort of rationale that like you were going to have less impact in boxing because the boxing gloves?
No, but it's like the subconcussive blows. It's like it's not necessarily the one shot knocking you out as much as the repeated kind of like small, like little bit of brain bleed.
Look, I'm sure that's like they're all bad for you. You know what I mean? And like a version of
knocks
getting
to
your
the head
head
are not a
cracked in
good thing to be avoided. Yeah.
Well, it's also what you take in training too. We're only considering what happens during a fight. If a guy has 40, 50 MMA fights, that's 40.
How many rounds does he have in the gym?
Oh, training camp is fucking brutal. And depending upon how intelligent your camp is, like some people are really smart and they'll spar where they're not hitting each other hard, and then maybe one day of the week they go live, but you do it with trusted, they're very close to you. These are people that you care about and love, so they're not going to try to hurt you on purpose.
Right.
but sometimes not. Like sometimes you're in a hostile gym and, you know, you got to spar with people you don't even know. They're from other countries. You have a big name. They're trying to take you out. You know, it's but the amount of damage these guys take. I mean, I don't know if football's better or worse. They're all, but the thing about football is the big impacts are way worse. Because when you've got a 300-pound super athlete that's fucking full tilt
all the way from across the field,
boom!
Yeah, with
I mean,
a
it's
running
like,
start.
Yeah, you're getting hit by a truck, and but that doesn't. It's not targeted necessarily at your head. So it's like what is better and what is worse. You know, boxing's bad. You know, it's like you have less options. MMA is slightly better because especially if you're a grappler, you can take guys down and you can beat them up on the ground. But it's ultimately you're paying a price.
Way to make a fucking living.
Yeah,
for sure.
But for that glory, for that one moment when they win and the fucking 16,000 people are on their feet screaming, there's probably no drug like that could ever reproduce it. And those guys chase that high for their entire life. And then after it's over, they feel oddly detached.
Right.
And nothing ever rises to that level again.
Right. You can make films until you're 100 years old. You know, you can make great films forever. You can do the thing that you love forever. They have a little window, of greatness.
That's the really tough thing about being an athlete. Like I
we were talking to Pete Sampras that time we met Sampras years ago.
Yeah.
And he was like, we were probably, I don't know how, we were 30, he was 32 or something like that. And he was kind of, we were like, oh my God, you know, he had all these fucking, you know, wins and Grand Slams, and he had a kind of vaguely like, he was like, yeah, you guys look, I'm about to retire. I'm finished. And we're, you know, young guys. We're, you know.
Just getting started, you know what I mean? Like also the thing is you get better at your job the more you do it. And, you know, and so it's that thing with the athlete. Yeah, I was having this conversation the other day. It's like you have all the physical skills at the beginning, but you become a better, you know, better at your sport. Yeah. You know, as your skills are declining.
The body just doesn't want to do it anymore.
And you've got to just become Greg Maddux, you know, and compensate with all the tricks and location and that's why that drama of like the aging athlete is so powerful. You still have it. It's like, do we still have it in me? Can I still do it? How long? You know, and is what I've learned enough to compensate for what I've lost, you know?
Well, there's an interesting story about Vitor Belfort. So Vitor Belfort he won the UFC heavyweight tournament when he was 19 years old. That was like the first event I ever worked at in 1997. I mean, he was like one of the all-time greats for sure. But as he was getting into his 30s, he was starting to decline. Then the UFC allowed fighters to use testosterone replacement therapy. And boy, did he fucking use it, okay? I don't know what his levels were, but they were like superhuman levels. And there was a moment in time for a few years where they allowed him to use testosterone therapy, and people refer to it as the TRT Vitor years because he was fucking terrifying because he has the mind of a veteran, incredible amount of experience, but now his body is moving like a 25-year-old. And so he was just annihilating people, just lighting people on fire.
So they're not allowed to use testosterone?
No, they can't use anything. No.
No. How about peptides? Can they use peptides?
Nope, not even peptides. They're trying to take that and reform that, but there's a lot of ignorance about peptides, what they actually do. I mean, all it's allowing you to do is soft tissue injuries, heal quicker, and optimize your body's ability to produce hormones. So instead of adding exogenous hormones, you're allowing your body to produce them more naturally, and it just makes you more healthy. For a very unhealthy job and where you're getting hurt all the time, it's going to be better for the sport, better for the athletes to allow them to all use it. And it's also, there's no long-term damage that's going to do like steroids where it shuts down your endocrine system. Right. So I hope they reform it. But the idea was that there's so many fucking loopholes and so many people cheat. Big camps used to hire scientists. So they had a scientist on staff that was not only...
What did he do?
Yeah, exactly. Not only procuring stuff that would slip by the test, because there's like, the Balco stuff with Barry the Clear.
The Clear,
There's stuff probably right now that people are using that's slipping through. And there's a lot of experts that have, like, one of the things is animal-derived testosterone. So testosterone, they use a carbon isotope test, I believe that's what they they use to figure out where the testosterone came from. So if your testosterone is like at a very high level, they test all your other ratios. They go, well, no, it all seems likely. He's an outlier. He just has naturally high testosterone. But testosterone that you get from like synthetic testosterone is derived from a wild yam. Believe it or not. Yes.
Really?
Yeah, it's not animal-derived testosterone. So the composite of it varies when they run the tests on it, and they can determine.
that it's a yam-based
It's
testosterone.
exogenous, not endogenous.
That's the yam and they're fighting. It's not him.
But if they can figure out a way to, and there's a lot of proof of concept of this, can they figure out a way to extract testosterone from animal sources?
Bull testosterone?
Something like that. Well, the
Well, there's like a
taurine. That's
horse
what
one.
they used to inject Hitler with taurine. You know, Hitler was like a fucking guinea pig for this one doctor who tried a bunch of shit on him. And one of the things they did was like inject him with bull testicles and stuff to try to keep him virile. Yeah, but there probably are athletes right now that are using some shit that they haven't figured out yet. So to give them any loopholes at all, they're like, no, fucking no loopholes. No IVs, no nothing.
No
like,
IVs.
No
like
IVs.
Vitamins and...
Right, but the problem with IVs is you can mask testosterone and mask steroids by over flooding the body with liquids. So if you overflow,
I see. Yeah.
So then when
So
you
the
piss, you
ratio's
piss.
high because you add more water. It's low.
Yes, you would just fill them up with saline, and then when they go to piss,
When they
like,
go to
nope,
piss,
clean.
it's-
Not much.
Look at the
Yeah.
ratio.
Right,
It's
right.
Because it's
nothing
like
to see
so
here.
much water is being processed through the body
Right.
that it doesn't have time to show the testosterone. So there's a way to mask it, especially with like things that you would add to the IV. So there's no, you can, it's only food and approved supplements through like really high level labs like Thorne, supplements where it's third party tested. So they can't do anything. But for a while, they let them do it. And those TRT Vitor days are my favorite fights to watch.
Did they stop doing it fighting because they thought it was like advantaging certain people, or shit happened that they're like, this is fucked up? Or was
Well,
it
they like look at the difference. That's TRT Vitor on the left, and that's him on the right when they made him get off of it. Look at the difference.
Jesus.
I mean, that's fucking stunning. On the left, though, dude, that motherfucker was terrifying. When Luke Rockhold fought him, he told me, he goes, dude, when I stood next to him at the fucking weigh-ins, he had muscles on his teeth. He goes, this fucking dude was so jacked. He was so scared. I was like, what the fuck is he on? He goes, he knew he was on something. It's cheating. It really is, because you can jack your levels way above a normal human being's, because that's what a lot of guys. There was a few fighters that were pulled from cards because, like, say if a really high level's like 1,100, they were testing like 1,800, 1,900. Right. They were like people that have never lived before.
Right.
They were like a science project.
like a different species?
And they were
This person is
insane
mostly
confidence.
testosterone.
Insane confidence, because they were essentially like a raging gorilla.
Yeah, right.
They were just insanely confident and it's just so fired up. Like they couldn't wait to smash somebody because they were just fucking maniacal. They were a berserker. You know, so it's not a person anymore.
Right,
Now you're a science project. It's not, there are rare outliers who, like Tyson when he was in his prime, is rare physical specimens, and like that's part of the game. But that's God. That's nature.
yeah.
This is not, Balco Labs.
Right.
And so they won't allow him to do anything anymore. And that's why. It's because too many, and Vitor was one of the guys that tested like way over the line. And then they
Guys
just
are
decided.
pushing it like,
Yeah.
right.
But that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
say,
If you say it's
okay,
legal, they're just
Yeah.
going to take as
Well,
much as
some
possible.
of those good,
yeah.
more is better, and
Yeah, if you say, you did 1 cc a week, they're like, I heard 5 cc's.
right.
And these guys are just training 5 times a day, and they never get tired, and they recover like that. So, and they never have to worry about soft tissue injuries because they heal like you're a fucking 6-year-old.
Right.
You just, your body just like...
you're like fucking Wolverine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Well, that's the thing about peptides, too, the Wolverine stack. BP 157 and TB 500. I don't know if you ever get injured. If you ever get injured, get immediately on BP 157 and TB 500.
I didn't hear about TB500. What's that one?
Thymosin beta 500.
Oh, yes.
It's in
okay.
conjunction
Got it.
with BPC 157. It is a fucking phenomenal stack. And it just really helps injuries.
I didn't know they called it the Wolverine.
That's what they call it, the Wolverine
For
stack.
healing?
Yeah, because you fucking heal incredibly well. Like it quickly. I was talking to a pro football player. He pulled his hamstring. He's like, dude, I shot that shit right into my hamstring for 2 weeks, and I was right back on the field.
Wow.
I was like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
I go, what is a normal rehab? He goes, 3 months. He goes, in 2 weeks, I was back on the field. I go, what the fuck? He goes, I don't know how bad the injury was. He goes, but to me, it's like, fuck. I pulled my hamstring. I'm fucked now for X amount of days. He goes, and 2 weeks later, I was playing full tilt. I'm like, that's nuts.
And going right into the area of the injury.
Right into it. Some people think you don't have to do that. They think it's, systemic, so you just like stick it in your fat on your side. But he's like, no. And most athletes will tell you the best benefit is local. Shoot it locally into the area. And it just has just
like cortisone or whatever. Or is it? What is the?
Cortisone. But cortisone just masks
numbs it or whatever. Yeah.
Not only that, it has a tendency, if you do it too many times, to weaken tendons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it could actually exacerbate the problem because it takes away the pain.
Measure.
Right.
Yeah, it takes away the pain, but I mean, then there's the enhanced games that are coming out in Vegas this year where they're like...
I know. My friend had that idea a long time ago. He was like, you should just do the drug Olympics for cash. He goes, do it in Vegas for cash. And then the enhanced games came. Scott
They're
Burns,
doing it.
I sent him a text. I was like, they're doing it.
And it's just like
I'm down. I love. Let's see what a human being can do.
That's what I think. I mean, look, when Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa and those guys were cracking out home runs, it was one of the most exciting times in baseball.
It was pretty.
It was
exciting.
That's why they didn't
great.
do anything. They knew it was not a fucking mystery to anybody.
Right.
But everybody's tuning in. Look at the Bash Brothers.
Right.
They had baseball on a strike. They almost fucking destroyed that league, and then people started watching.
Yeah, they
guys
brought
were
it
hitting
back.
home
Yeah,
runs.
yeah.
And then Bonds is like, well, these two fucking guys are hitting this many home runs. I'm the best player in baseball, which he was.
Yep.
And when he did it, it was lights out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had a year where he only swung and missed 26 times. 162 games. 3.5 at-bats a game. Only swung and missed 20. I mean, that's just... and McGuire move his wrist to get the ball out of the park, and it was like it was fun to watch.
And when people say like steroids don't make you a better athlete, they don't make you a better athlete.
yeah.
But if you're a fucking Barry Bonds,
if you're already an elite athlete, it makes.
If you let John
This
Jones
much
do all the juice he wants,
my God.
he'd be fighting until he's 50 and
For
fucking
sure.
people up. If you
Nobody-
say, John, we've really come to our senses. Like this sport's all about excitement. Want to give the people what they want. Let people make informed choices based on their own discretion. It's lights
Welcome
out. Welcome back. Then all of a sudden, John looks like Vitor in that picture.
He'd be undefeated until.
By the way,
50.
John beat Vitor when Vitor was in his prime, and Vitor caught John in a full arm bar, totally locked his arm out, hyperextended it, popped it, went backwards. You can see the video of it. His elbow is going that way. And he wouldn't tap, and then beat him in the next round.
with one arm.
Yep, one arm. His arm was fucked for like a year after that. Yeah. Yeah.
Give that man some steroids. Let's see what he can do.
Steroids. Let him be the king of the world. Yeah.
It's the dream team. It's like, remember the first time the pros went to the Olympics, whatever, the years 90s?
Oh, yeah.
They
It was
won
so
every
fun.
game by 70 points.
Yeah.
It wasn't close, but it was a hell of a lot of fun.
It was fun.
Well, the
to watch.
argument for that made sense, though, because like these other people are being compensated in their countries.
Oh, yeah. I had
Yeah.
no problem. And by the way, now it's got more. That last Olympic championship was a great game against France. That was fabulous, I mean, yeah, they're going to wreck some smaller countries and stuff, but okay, you're playing pros, they're playing pros. The whole definition of amateurism has gotten a little bit like,
Yes.
it's like people find like a convenient definition of it according to what's there. Like you see in college sports is changing and stuff. Like, look, I got no problem if you're going to apply the rules evenly, but sometimes when it feels like it's just an excuse to like for the NCAA to make $1 billion off the TV deal, and like, no, you guys, you're getting an education.
Right.
It's like a little bit like, education. You guys are making a lot of money because people want to see Nebraska play.
It's exploitation. Yeah, and I'm glad they've changed that with college sports because these guys are the reason why you're filling up the seats, and they deserve that money.
And not even one of them's going to be in the NFL.
Right.
You know what I mean? Some of them, that's their
Most
window
of
to
them
make
aren't.
that fucking
Right.
money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's hard.
It's
to get
hard.
to the NFL.
And the risk of catastrophic injury is
exactly.
always
It
there.
was constant.
Constant, yeah.
And the metrics for it's like, what is it, a 2.5 year career or something? Really on average.
Yep.
Depending on your position, but I mean, it's such a long
that seems
shot.
just fair and obvious. Like, you can pay a kid to flip a cheeseburger out of college, but not to, like,
Right.
Come on.
Well, that's the great thing about doing something where you're not relying on your body, like acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can kind of do it forever,
Yeah, keep going until you lose it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's really, it's great. And it's got its own competitive aspect, and it's a lot, but like, okay, great. If you really bet on yourself, and then the expectation is, well, I got to do something that's interesting enough that people want to watch it. Well, that's the proposition anyway.
How do you guys decide, like, on projects that you choose? Like, I'm sure you have so many options now. Like, what makes you say, this is what I'm going to spend the next 6 months doing?
It's really, I mean, there are a bunch of different factors. Like the director is being the most important one. But if you read a script and like we've read so many thousands and thousands of scripts and written so many scripts and worked on so many movies that if we read something and it's that thing we were talking about earlier, you get that kind of emotional, something happens when you read it. You go, okay, well, then you pay attention to it, maybe read it again, go, wait a minute. If it moves you in that way, then ultimately the big decision is saying yes because you're going to spend.
Yeah, it's the last point over which you have total control,
right?
And then you're in.
Then you're in, and you're in whether it's good or bad. I mean, I've been on those movies where I knew a month into a 6-month shoot that like this is not going to work. And that is the fucking
What is that
worst.
like?
That's the worst, man.
It is. I came to think of that. It happened to me.
They're going to shoot us all when it comes out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like it's
You gotta
all
show up
bad.
and go to work.
It's like it's gonna be 80 16-hour days in a row, and then a post-production period that's going to be pretty fraught, and then it's going to come out and we're going to get fucking crushed.
And then you're going to have to sell it. So
You're
you're going to
gonna
have to
walk
interviews.
the fucking plank and sit down with access. You know what I mean? And like, saw
It's
the
really
movie.
terrible.
How important is that stuff still today? Like the press stuff. Is that still important?
It is. I don't know to what degree each specific thing is.
It's kind of ironic because we were talking about coming on this show today. And we've been saying, I was like,
we were
doing
saying
this show,
this is
it'll be more
probably-
meaningful than the rest of the shit we do in aggregate to promote this movie.
Like we spent this whole week in New York doing, I don't know how many interviews, the quick ones with all the outlets.
105-minute
and-
interviews,
Yeah.
all the evening shows, the day shows.
Yeah, all that stuff, and this just given how many people listen to the show will be more meaningful. But we think. I mean, we were speculating, but
historically, right? If you look at it, that's it because they've changed to like all of it feels kind of produced and forced and advertised, and people have become resistant to anything that feels kind of like a gimmick and a shtick. And you go on and you do your song and dance, and they say the thing, it looks great, and nobody cares. Like they're looking to go either because somebody they know says it's interesting, or somebody that they is trusted, and a trusted person is in like you said, your feed, right? And it's your friend or your cousin, or they affix that to somebody, which has become a more rare thing, like. Who's a legitimate neutral arbiter, right? Who I can't predict what they're going to say before I go there. There are fewer and fewer of those people in the world, even those are proliferation of more and more voices. And it's kind of paradoxical. Like the form of entertainment is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So you're like a 7-second, we had an advertising company. We do most of the spots that we release, like 15-second spots, 6-second spots for social, the ones most people see. And then there's this one form, which is like long form discussions that are 2 hours long. And the amazing to me is, in a world where it seems like you can't get people to pay attention for more than, a few seconds, there's a kind of a hunger for that. So there's like this form, and that's why you see these are getting more popular. Obviously, you have this massive audience, and it's kind of flying in the face of the whole other trend. And I think, and I don't know, that it probably has something to do with like, who do I think is authentic? And am I actually willing to extend my 2 hours of my time to sit there and listen through? And that an argument that people probably do appreciate and understand conversations that have context and nuance and where there's like a back and forth. They're just much more selective about who they're willing to kind of give that sort of voice to in their life.
It's also the voice of the public too, because when people start talking about things online and things go viral online and people just start like saying how great they love the film or how great this album is or something like that, it just takes off organically now.
Yeah, and that has more weight than anything. If you feel like somebody else who obviously has no dog in the fight is going, hey, this is great, you should see it. I'm the same thing. If I hear somebody tell me, like, who I respect, hey, you got to see that thing, that means more to me than anything, right? Because I believe that. And so if the closer you can get to that, which is why I think the act of, telling the same, story about you should go see the movie to a bunch of people with a certain like limited reach, it's just not that efficient, but you have to, because it's like, well, we sat down with our own Trisha Tanaka and talked about the movie, and you kind of do that, and ostensibly because it means a little bit more in that market. But I think ultimately it's like more and more people realize they're being sold to, see through the fucking act and this sort of bullshit of it. They recognize that, you go out and sell every movie, you know what I mean, the good and the bad, and then we got to decide, well, which one, and who can you count on? Well, it's mostly going to be that, like, the word of mouth, your friend, and now you can see that person in your media experience,
Yeah, and I think it's also, we know that when you're sitting down with Extra or these things, like, that's just their job to sit down with people. They're not doing it because they want to.
Right.
It's like
they got told, go talk to that person.
Exactly.
And
we got told, go talk to them.
And so we go do the ritual,
Yeah.
and they say the thing they say, and we say the thing we say, and everyone goes home and says we did our job.
That's the benefit of an independent podcast, is that with me, if I don't talk to anybody I don't want to talk to. It's just like I literally do the whole thing on my phone. I go, oh yeah, that sounds cool, and that's it.
But like that, I think means a lot. It's like, at least this person's making this choice, and I've listened to it a bunch, and I actually find myself agreeing with it a lot of the time. So all right, I'll give it a shot. That it's exactly.
I think also like this format, like at least I know why I started listening to podcasts was because in the world, like the divisive kind, the way everybody was talking, these sound bites and all this shit, and it was just like the ability to just listen to human beings talk, often who had different points of view, but like had a civil conversation.
Yeah,
was such a welcome thing, given the kind of the hysterical kind of frenzy of divisiveness. That's kind of, it just feels, it's just like, it's like if I open my phone and look at the news, I feel it's like fuck.
Yeah.
It's like put it down. It's like I feel my cortisol level go up, and to actually hear people, listen to people I know I don't agree with, but listen to them and just think about it. You know what I mean? I mean, approach life with a little bit of humility. Not hold on to what you believe, obviously, but keep listening.
It's also, there's not a lot of opportunities in the real world to have long conversations with people. No. So people are kind of starving for that.
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny that this has become the shared cultural, like, we listen to that podcast and then actually experience that. And also, why don't people trust the media? Well, because the media doesn't do that, because they compress it, and because the truth, it's money. Because actually doing that's not with money. It's just ratings and the perceived idea that, like, well, if you simplify it or you position it one way or the other, you engender outrage. And that's simple, or just pure one-sided ideas that are simple. But the news used to be, the idea was, look, here's the FCC. We're going to let these networks broadcast their shows and make money on it. But here's the deal: you got to give an hour of that and lose money on that hour to tell the news and try to tell it objectively. Then it started to be, no, you got to make money for that hour too. And if you're going to make money, that's a different incentive than tell the truth or report news or any of those things. And people try to hybridize them. But at the end of the day, you're a more successful reporter if more people watch you, because advertisers pay more. And then they're doing the same thing, looking at their data, what are people watching, what kinds of stories. And I think it's a simple answer, is because you're making it into a profit game. Those incentives are not aligned with just trying to get down to, like, even reporting basic facts.
Yeah, it's a weird time. It's like we have more access to information than ever before, but so much of it is just horseshit.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay balanced.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's good to, like, listen to the people just talk.
Yeah.
And then you recognize, like, the flaws in their thinking. You feel ego. You feel deception, bullshit.
It's true. People will reveal themselves. Like, we actually don't need that many editorialists.
To
be constantly telling us what to think and how to think. Because people actually have pretty good instincts. If someone's bullshitting you, eventually they'll kind of hang themselves. Like you said, you'll get that vibe. After a while, he kind of started repeating his shtick, and he didn't really talk about what I was wondering about. And you form your own. That's like forming your own judgment.
Pete Buttigieg actually talked about that being dangerous on podcasts. He's like, because you go on there and you have your points, but you'll get revealed over the course of a few hours. Like, you can only stick to these lines.
Yeah, you can only talking points and bullshit and then what happens is people just, like, there was an art to, like, look at how great that communicator, they stick to the message and they do their points. okay, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, but any longer than that,
Yeah.
it just starts to look like a fucking robot on, you know. And like I said, what we need to follow through with, like, yeah,
And
no, I saw you do
sometimes-
the same hand gesture and the same bit with that, but I'm, you know.
Sometimes you find out they're full of shit just by having them talk about other things. You know, like, tell me, do you like cooking? You know, like, just
Right, right.
like, and then you just see like some concocted.
They're thinking, what makes me look good if about cooking? that I should say?
Exactly.
Well, I'll
That's
tell you
it.
what, because
Yeah.
I
What
love
would the
America
focus
so
group
much,
say?
yeah.
That's exactly it. Like,
Do I cook or do I not? What would I?
right.
Does that make me feminine, or does
Right,
it make me
right.
open to cultural? You know, it's just like,
Yeah.
what do you like to cook, man?
I know.
I don't cook. I just, you know.
Well, that's the other thing about people that are online too much is they're so concerned with other people's opinions that they don't have enough time to formulate their own. They're just so concerned with how people are going to perceive everything you say that you're like handcuffed. You're like terrified to misspeak.
Right, right.
I think that
Right.
in general is
You're-
a real fucking danger. I mean, we were talking the other day. We were saying about like one of the benefits of getting older and doing this for a long time is you realize like nobody really gives a shit as much about you as you
Yeah,
thought. You know,
that's good.
you just kind of nobody gives a fuck. Nobody
you
remembers.
spend your 20s and 30s
doesn't
thinking
matter.
like this is really important, and then you realize no one fucking
am I going to come off? And what's going to be? People,
No one actually
Right.
cares. It's,
It's
not
like-
that big a deal. Nobody.
Most
nobody
people are
cares.
mostly worrying about themselves and their
Yeah.
life, and they, there's this illusion that they pay a passing moment of attention, or it's in some story, or something. It's like you're fucking staring at it because it's about you,
Right.
You know that you said that about me. Nobody else really. Fucking
Nobody cares.
Yeah. And if they do, they're usually fucked up. Like something's wrong. Why you concentrate on this other person's life?
Does it
Right.
really
You're
matter?
You're probably
to you?
trying to
It's
ignore
like-
your own bullshit.
Right.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, your movie's fucking awesome. I've loved so much of your films over the years, so it's been really cool to be able to have you guys in here and talk about this. It's been great.
Oh, it's been
Thanks for
fun.
having
Thank
us.
you
Two
very much.
very normal, nice movie stars. You guys are cool as fuck.
Give us a couple more
Thanks, man.
hours.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
I enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the rip. It's fucking great, and everybody go see it. It's great. I loved it. Thank you. Thanks for being here. All right.
It's a pleasure.
Bye, everybody.